Chapter 1061. Dragon. Divine Dragon. They were the most powerful existences among the brilliant life races. They could live forever, and no one knew of their existence. Emperor Ning. To be able to suppress a divine dragon, what kind of powerful means was that? Su Fang's mind was filled with a person at the end of the void, fighting with a giant divine dragon. It was really terrifying. He couldn't help but feel shocked. From the information I collected, Emperor Ning's mansion is mysterious and powerful. I don't know how powerful it is. I don't understand why such a force is looking for me. It's a big force in the big world, and I'm just an ordinary immortal who just ascended from a small world. It's impossible for us to have connections. After recovering from the shock, Su Fang still couldn't figure it out. He frowned. Even if Emperor Ning's mansion is looking for me, it might not be Emperor Ning himself. It should be his subordinates. That person might not be an enemy I offended in the big world. Could it be an expert I offended in the small world? No matter what, if the Emperor Ning's mansion knows where I am, I will be in a lot of trouble. By then, even the 9 Heaven Star Palace will not be able to resist this great power. I can't let the 6 of them pass the message back. Fortunately, the 6 of them will go to the Star Palace to capture disciples and confirm before passing the message back. I must kill them on the way to get rid of this great threat. Crack! He clenched his fists and his joints made a strong sound. He went back to the restaurant and waited near the 6 of them. A few days later, the 6 of them left the restaurant and went to buy a lot of things nearby. Obviously, they were going to the outer region of the void to make a long-term plan. The methods I can use to deal with this kind of expert are tongue ba, ghoul, 2 puppet demonic soldiers, and a motionless sword spy. As the 6 of them gradually flew out of Purple Moon Barren City, about 5 miles away, Su Fang was looking for an opportunity and making a plan. Since he wanted to deal with the 6 experts, he had to consider it carefully. The 6 of them were not in the Heaven Immortal Realm, but just in the Heaven Immortal Realm. It was difficult to cultivate in the Cave Immortal Realm. After cultivating in the Cave Immortal Realm, one had to borrow the power of the Cave Immortal Realm. It was also very difficult to cultivate in the Heaven Immortal Realm. It was very difficult to take the essence of heaven and earth and borrow the power of stars. As for the Heaven Immortal Realm, Xian Immortal, Profound Immortal Realm, it was extremely mysterious. After passing through the 2 major obstacles of the Grotto Immortal Realm and the Heavenly Immortal Realm and stepping into the Xian Immortal Realm, one would begin to truly cultivate the essence of heaven and earth and borrow the power of the stars. The heavenly insight and golden core in one's body would undergo many changes, and so would the divine orifices. Magic power would also be as vast as the ocean. Moreover, stepping into the mysterious immortal realm was 10 times more difficult than stepping into the heavenly immortal realm and cave immortal realm. Once one stepped into the mysterious immortal realm, one would truly experience the eternal flow of cultivation. In the grand immortal world, profound immortals were already peerless experts. The 6 experts from the Chamber of Commerce were all in the mystic immortal realm. The big goblin, Tung Ba, was also in the mystic immortal realm. These 6 people were probably peerless experts. Fortunately, their cultivation was not very shocking. They were probably in the mystic immortal realm, 1st Dao realm, or 3rd Dao realm. If it was really a high-level expert at the mysterious immortal realm, then Su Fang would be able to sense the shocking, oppressive aura coming from Qin Kuei and Yuan Yi. Only mysterious immortals could cross the immortal AO Great World and come to this world outside the void. To deal with these people, I have to wait for them to rest. I'll take the opportunity to release the gluttonous devil and ghoul's poison. First, I'll use the poison to trap them. As long as they are poisoned, their strength will be greatly affected. In addition, they will be frightened by the poison to the point that their Dao heart will be shaken. Tung Ba can attack from the surroundings and prevent them from escaping. As long as they are trapped by the gluttonous devil, and Tung Ba, it will be difficult for them to escape. If someone manages to escape, I still have 2 devil puppet soldiers. I, Su Fang, am no longer the ant that just came to the grand immortal world. I am the supreme realm lord of 5 small worlds." At this moment, there was no longer any expression on his face. He released a cold light and controlled the feather fan to follow closely in the void. Not long after, the 6 people slowed down. Obviously, they wanted to find a place to rest. This was Su Fang's opportunity. They found a material in a nebula. This material was cold and not small. It was hidden in the nebula. The 6 people found it by accident. "Master," the Wooling Goblin appeared and transformed into its true body. A gray belt of stones swallowed Su Fang in one gulp and slowly moved through the nebula. Air currents surged from time to time. All kinds of shackles in the void were constantly exploding in the nebula. When they arrived above the material, they slowly moved through the ruins. They immediately saw the depths of the material that looked like a valley. A very faint formation was covering the valley. Su Fang used his great perfection ability to sense carefully. With his heavenly, immortal, and celestial realm cultivation, his various abilities were too shocking. He sensed through the formation. He saw the 6 people sitting cross-legged in one direction. There were all kinds of sensing abilities inside and outside the formation. No one was patrolling the perimeter. Normally, there would not be any danger in the depths of this nebula unless someone was secretly following them. Under Su Fang's orders, the Wooling Goblin came to the side of the formation. There was a large pit. Su Fang used the formation to seal the gluttonous devil and had it hide in the pit. He then went to the other side of the formation and used the same method to have Gue hide in the ruins. Finally, it was Tung Ba. With Tung Ba's strength, he completely surpassed the 6 people. He relied on his own ability to hide on the other side of the formation. Finally, he sent the 2 devil puppet soldiers into the nebula. The devil puppet soldiers were puppets. They did not have any aura of life or treasures. As long as they were not touched, they were cold materials. Su Fang came to the top of the formation and used the power of the yin-yang world. He did not expect it to be like using the extreme nebula art. It actually caused the surrounding nebula to automatically wrap around him. This was the miraculous power of the yin-yang world. Even if he did not cultivate the extreme nebula art, he could still use the power of the world to control nature. This was Su Fang's current ability. However, his ability in the outer region of the void was not any different from the mystic immortal realm. It was even more terrifying than the mystic immortal realm. As for his strength, it was not comparable to the mystic immortal realm. Ghoul, the world was in a cold silence. After observing for a long time with his great perfection ability, Su Fang found that the 6 people were holding their breaths and resting. He decisively gave the order to attack. Swish, swish, swish. There were also some natural whirlwinds that swept over from the 2 nebulas. 2 waves of poisonous liquid and poisonous gas gushed out. The speed was so fast that it left people speechless. In an instant, the 2 highly toxic poisons fused together and covered the array formation. It was like a poisonous blanket that covered the array formation. Chi, the array that was in a static state, suddenly emitted white smoke as if it had been splashed with boiling water. Moreover, the devouring power caused the array to shake violently. Swish! In a breath's time. Almost at the same time, a flying sword shot out of the formation. Unfortunately, there was no one outside. The ghouls and goblins were quite a distance away, and the flying sword were just for show. How could they deal with these 2 monsters? Then, the other transcendent artifacts also began to be activated. They were on the verge of collapse, and the poisonous gas was flowing in reverse from the edges of the formation. It could be seen how panicked the 6 people inside were. Su Fang, who was hiding above, could naturally see through all of this with his great perfection ability. The 6 of them had their backs against each other. One of them had just charged out when he was pushed back by the corrosive poisonous gas from the broken array formation. Moreover, he was also infected with some of the highly toxic poison. Highly toxic. They immediately took out antidote pills. Not to mention, these experts of the Merchant Association had been traveling in the outer realms for many years. They would definitely have all kinds of pills on them in case of an emergency. Unfortunately, even after swallowing the pills to neutralize the goblin's poison, it was still not enough. It could only slightly suppress some of the poisonous gas, but the highly toxic poison was still seeping into their skin. The six of them realized the power of the highly toxic poison and quickly condensed talismans. Talismans? They burst out and formed a firm, absolute defense. This time, the highly toxic poison was really unable to penetrate it and could only wrap around the defense. This was the power of a mystic, immortal expert. They could use an array formation to completely isolate the space. This way, the poisonous gas could not seep in. I didn't expect you to have such methods. Oomph. The corner of his mouth raised into a sneer. Su Fong touched the tip of his nose. He did not expect Tung Ba, who was hiding in the dark, to come over with a meteor hammer. With a roar, the sound shook the starry sky. Pow! Pow! However, Su Fong saw that the six of them were being affected by both the attacks and the devilish qi. Their true qi was constantly being drained, and the formation was also damaged to a certain extent. If this continued, the six of them would not even be able to last a day before half of their true qi was exhausted. In the end, they would only be able to charge out and be entangled by the highly toxic poison. Tung Ba, on the other hand, had the strength and medicinal pills. He was not afraid of exhausting his true qi. The key was that he was born with divine strength, so he did not need to use his true qi. As for the ghouls and goblins' poison, it was even more terrifying. This was their innate talent. With the three monsters working together, they had the advantage of restraining humans. It was just enough to stump the six experts. As expected of experts, let's see how long you can last. In the end, you'll be flustered and exasperated. You'll use your magic treasures to charge out recklessly. I'll be waiting for you to lose your composure. Unfortunately, all of you are experts. You don't know how to take a gamble and take a gamble. If you had condensed all your strength earlier and activated the formation to charge out of the poisonous gas, even if you were poisoned, you wouldn't have ended up trapped like this. Su Fong pinched the tip of his nose again. At this moment, he no longer had anything in common with Huangfu Shaoying, a disciple of the constellation of Nine Heavens. Moreover, he was from the former small world, the supreme realm lord who unified the five small worlds. He stood with his hands behind his back and waited. Su Fong also had a good understanding of the six people's abilities and strength. He had also prepared 2 devil puppet soldiers. Mystic immortal realm experts were indeed extraordinary. Not only were they rich in true qi, but they also cultivated the astonishing ability to extract the essence of heaven and earth and borrow the power of the stars. Using the formation, they could borrow the natural power of the surrounding extraterritorial lands and turn it into a terrifying aura to force away the poisonous gas and deal with Tung Ba, who was attacking the formation. If it wasn't for Tung Ba's nimbleness and being a difficult character to deal with, they probably wouldn't have been able to get close to the formation. It just so happens that I can also add some seasoning to all of you. Let me see if I can deal with all of you without using the devil puppet soldiers. Su Fong suddenly formed a seal. His hands turned into a state of burning fire clouds. The fire clouds seemed to be burning. Law suddenly said from the depths, "If you cultivate the yellow spring blood sea, you can completely transform into a blood sea state and directly envelop and devour them." I want it too. Unfortunately, I can't control the yellow spring blood sea yet. In an instant, after forming a seal, he released the divine might of the world of yin and yang. He released his sensing power into this nebula and began to extract the essence of heaven and earth. He pressed his hands together and activated the power of the stars. Waves of burning fire clouds condensed out of thin air from the surroundings of the nebula. They were like burning flowers of fire clouds that fell towards the defense. For a time, the desolate land in the depths of the nebula formed many strange lights. Chapter 1062. They didn't expect a heaven immortal to be able to extract the essence of heaven and earth and borrow the power of the stars in the outer realm. The burning illusory fire cloud was transformed into a fire cloud by Su Fong's hands. He also released the power of the world to control the surrounding void, turning it into a big ball of fire cloud. It cut through the nebula and fell on the defense with a boom. The defense trembled under Tung Ba's attack. Coupled with the corrosion of the two demonic chi, it looked like it was on the verge of collapse. Now that it was hit by fireballs again and again, the defense began to burn and crack. The 6 experts inside were suffering. Is this the degree of control a heaven immortal has in the outer realm of the great immortal world? It was as if after controlling the essence of heaven and earth and borrowing the power of the stars, Su Fong felt the existence of an immortal in the great world for the first time. Of course, this had a lot to do with him cultivating the world Tao early on. If he didn't have the power of Yang, world fragments, wonderful cultivation techniques, and special physique, he wouldn't be able to use such an earth-shattering divine ability with his 2 realms. Although his divine ability was not outstanding compared to a mystic immortal, it was a miracle that he could use the fire cloud divine ability for such a long time. However, the fire cloud's attack still didn't completely shatter the defense. It only consumed the true chi of the 6 people. Fire cloud, sword chi. Since it was in the ordinary flame state, its power wasn't shocking. With a seal, the fire cloud's hands formed different seals. In an instant, the falling fire clouds immediately turned into sword chi with shocking attack. There were at least several hundred flaming feather sword chis above the defense. With the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas, they attacked one after another. Whooshing sounds could be heard as they attacked. Once they hit the defense, they would explode with shocking rumbling rings of destruction. The effect was obvious. The defense seemed to be sinking bit by bit. Moreover, this meant a lot of time for Tung Ba. He was forced to stay away from the defense of the 6 people inside. But now with the fire cloud, sword chi, and his meteor hammer, the defense light dissipated. Coupled with the poison, a large area of the defense had been shattered. This, 2 gluttonous demons and a big goblin. We can't drag this out any longer. So what if we don't drag this out? Without any defenses, there's poison outside. Once we're poisoned, it'll be hard to cure. This is the gluttonous demon's poison. However, being poisoned is still better than slowly dying from being trapped. If we kill our way out, there's still a path to survival. Furthermore, although the devouring devil's poison is terrifying, there's still a chance to cure it. It's just that it's very difficult, and the process is very long. That's right, we can't kill our way out, even if we're waiting for death. We've used up more than half of our true chi, and if we really run out of true chi, we won't be able to resist, even if we want to. All right, at this time, the 6 experts in the formation were finally unable to calm down. They were discussing. In the end, they decided to kill their way out. Of course, Su Fong heard everything clearly. It's good that you want to kill your way out. If you guys had come out earlier, I wouldn't have been afraid of you guys. After all, you guys have true chi. A profound immortal's magic treasure and divine ability are incomparably powerful. Look at what's going on. Humph, humph. His heart trembled, and he activated the emotionless sword spy. Using his hands that were in the form of fire clouds, he grabbed the emotionless sword spy and prepared to kill the 6 experts. With his perfection immortal's ability, he could see every single one of their movements. That included grabbing Tao artifacts, condensing seals, and activating divine abilities. Furthermore, they were craftily trying to kill their way out from 6 different directions. In that instant, a large amount of devouring devil's poison surged in the direction the 6 of them wanted to kill their way out. They thought they were very smart, but with Su Fong's ability, this little bit of cleverness was the stupidest method. Boom, boom. In the next second, the 6 of them stepped on a wave of sparks, and their imposing auras suddenly broke through the defenses from the inside. As expected, they wanted to escape from 6 different directions. However, when the 6 of them suddenly saw the surging, devouring devil's poison in front of them, they regretted it. It was as if the devouring devil's poison had grown eyes and was waiting for them to enter. It's time to kill them. These 6 experts are all profound immortals. It's impossible to capture them alive. We can only kill them. Su Fong sent a command to Tung Ba, and he immediately charged out. As for Su Fong, he was already secretly controlling the 2 devil puppet soldiers. Furthermore, he was also slowly appearing from the nebula above. Pa! Pa! In the 6 directions of the poisonous gas, the 6 experts were covered in poison and their skin was dripping with blood. However, in order to survive, they frantically activated their magic treasures to break through the poison and shatter the shackles around them. They constantly struggled to get out of the place. Tung Ba attacked one of them with a meteor hammer, blasting that person's treasure out of his hand. If it wasn't for the divine art protecting his body, he would have been smashed to death by the hammer. Pa! On the other side, an expert was actually standing on a flying sword and holding a great dao. He finally managed to struggle out of the poisonous space. When he saw the devouring devil and ghoul in the distance, he did not care about his companions and hurriedly flew away. You can't escape. Su Fong, who had a pair of fiery golden eyes, was already 1 step ahead of him. He used fire cloud steps and fire cloud wings to block the path of the old man whose entire body was being tortured by the poison. You are a devil Dao cultivator. You are indeed a devil Dao cultivator. The bloody expert was trembling in fear. However, his eyes suddenly lit up. You are actually a second Dao Sky immortal. Are you courting death? Su Fong stood with his hands behind his back. He had fire cloud wings on his back. He used fire cloud steps, and even his hands were in the state of fire clouds. He was completely a fire-type cultivator. He shook his head. I don't know if I'm courting death or not. If you want to know, then come take a look. However, no matter how I look at it, you are the one courting death. Madman, why are you attacking us? We have no enmity with you. This person suddenly gained courage from who knows where and was no longer afraid. We have no enmity with you. Hee. Is there a reason to kill? You should know what I mean. Courting death. This person did not care about the poison, nor was he afraid of the poison in the surroundings. He condensed a shocking divine aura and combined it with a high-grade flying sword in his hand. In an instant, he exploded with a shocking sword aura and attacked Su Fong. This sword aura was estimated to be 300 meters long, and the strongest sword aura was at the front. All of the power gathered into a single point and slashed down at Su Fong. Puppet Protector. He suddenly smiled and took a step back. Chi, a 5-meter-tall black humanoid figure appeared in front of Su Fong in a flash. The mystic immortal expert in the center of the sword aura was deeply startled. Then, he released an even more terrifying attack with his sword. What the hell is this? Even this can't save your life. Bang! The sword aura was like a rainbow as it instantly struck the puppet demon soldier. Whether it was its aura or attack, it far surpassed the demon soldier. It was enough to shatter the demon soldier. However, when the sword aura hit the demon soldier, it was like a gale hitting a rock. The rock did not shake at all, but the gale dissipated by itself. The sword aura was scattered by the demon soldier. The expert insisted on pouring all of his power into the flying sword. The tip of the sword drew a dazzling sword light, and with a clang, it touched the demon soldier's chest. Crack! However, the Heaven Immortal expert thought that this time he would definitely be able to shatter the demon soldier. He did not expect the flying sword in his hand to suddenly shatter. Moreover, this shattering force came too quickly, giving him no time to react. The shattering force shook his right arm and turned it into a bloody mist. As for his entire body, he was pushed by the sword aura from behind and continued to attack the demon soldier. He could not control his body. In the end, with a bang, his body crashed into the demon soldier. His body actually shattered, turning into pieces of flesh and blood that scattered everywhere. You asked for it. Looking at the flesh and blood on the ground, he put away the storage ring. Then he summoned the Green Feather King, the Undying Tortoise, the Vermilion Emperor, and the other big goblin, and began to absorb the blood chi around the corpse to cultivate. Want to run? When the big goblin appeared, Su Fong disappeared on the feather fan. It turned out that another expert was running out of the poisonous space, desperately trying to escape. Su Fong took a step forward, but that person was faster. So what? Su Fong flicked his finger. When that person flew out 10 feet, a demon soldier suddenly fell from the sky. The expert was so frightened that he used a magic treasure to block above his head to defend. However, the demon soldier stomped down and crushed the magic treasure. That person's head was also crushed. Since he died, the magic treasure naturally belonged to Su Fong. The next few people did not allow Su Fong to make a move and directly let the demon soldier intercept them in midair. However, at this moment, he had asked Teng Ba to deal with another expert. He had locked onto one of the experts, who was the strongest among the six. This expert was already covered in wounds after being entangled by Teng Ba for a while. When he saw Su Fong alone, he released demonic chi and attacked with a flying sword in his hand. "You're the demon of the demonic mountain." He simply admitted it. "Yes, I'm the demon of the demonic mountain. This time, I followed the experts of the sect to the Huangza astral realm to seize the Yellow Springs Demon Emperor's dojo. Above me are the two great experts, Blood Sovereign Sai and Sovereign Ba Mo. You're an expert of the Chamber of Commerce, so you should know the two sovereigns, right?" "Of course I know. The two demonic diagrams are stained with the blood of countless people from the righteous path. Today I must kill you. Hand over your life." This expert was flustered and exasperated. In fact, he also knew that there was no chance of survival. Moreover, falling into the hands of the demon, there was only one outcome, a fate worse than death. Ruthless sword spy. The moment the expert attacked with a sword, the whole world was filled with terrifying sword momentum, as if it could swallow the sky and destroy the earth. Su Fong was naturally no match for him, but he had a supreme magic weapon. In an instant before the sword momentum arrived, he shot out 18 merciless flying swords. His right hand also grabbed a blood-colored circular magic weapon and attacked while he was mobile. Boom! Boom! The merciless flying swords and the sword momentum clashed. The two sword momentum almost formed a sword momentum storm, but the merciless flying swords were too domineering, causing the opponent's flying swords to be shattered again and again. Buzz! A black magic weapon suddenly made the expert fearful of the merciless flying sword's power. Suddenly, he was enveloped by the black flames spurted out by the magic weapon. The demonic blood plate. With a heart-wrenching scream, the expert was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. How could he feel good being controlled by the demonic blood plate? He was also powerless to control the flying swords and divine abilities. After being entangled by the merciless flying swords, Su Fong flashed over and asked domineeringly in front of the expert, "You only need to answer my question. If you answer and I'm satisfied, I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I can choose to make you wish you were dead. You are a devil. You are ordered by the Emperor Ning's residence to go to the Star Palace and look for an immortal called Su Fong." Yes. Why is the Emperor Ning's residence looking for him? I don't know either. Don't lie to me. Not only do I not know, the higher-ups who accepted the mission also don't know. The Chamber of Commerce won't ask the customer why. It's just a business deal. We only know that the Emperor Ning's residence is looking for an immortal, and our mission is to use countless Chamber of Commerce to find this person. I promise you. PFFF. As the expert finished answering, 18 merciless flying swords instantly pierced into his body. His body tilted and he lost his vitality. Keeping the demonic blood plate, Su Fong fell into deep thought. Although I don't know why the Emperor Ning's residence is looking for me, if the Chamber of Commerce keeps looking for me, there will be a second time. If a big force wants to find me, I won't be able to hide in the Star Palace. To me, there is only one choice. Before the Emperor Ning's residence makes a move on me, I must be strong enough to be independent. Chapter 1063. He grabbed the corpse and soared back to the center. At this point, the battle was almost over. Teng Ba besieged the last expert of the Chamber of Commerce. After a few attacks, that person's body was gradually destroyed by divine power. He gave two of the corpses to Gue and Gluttonous Demon. The corpse in his hand and the other corpses were thrown into the void dust cauldron for the other big goblin to absorb. After Teng Ba killed the last person, he gave the storage ring to Su Fong. He also took the corpse and returned to the void dust cauldron. Everything quieted down. Su Fong did not check the treasures in the storage ring. To him, Just the wealth from the 100 virtues ancient demon Tao right was enough for him to use for many years. Behind the purple moon wilderness city, a few months away, is the immortal Ao Great World. Seven-star child, Huang Lingyao, and Sheng Changsheng are there. I have to speed things up, especially the purple cloud Dharma spirit. I have to get in touch with Wang Yuehai in the Yuanlu Great World's Jinwu Villa. I suppressed this person and made him lurk beside Huowen. I got him to follow Huowen and find traces of Seven-Star Child in the immortal Ao Great World. But after more than 100 years, there is still no news of this person. The progress is too slow. There is another possibility. This person is probably not sincere in doing this for me. Looking at the deep void, Su Feng thought of the immortal Ao Great World. He also thought of the purple cloud Dharma spirit's carrier, Sheng Changsheng, in that world. He pondered for a while. Now that I am a nominated special disciple, I have the right to enter the dojo. As long as I refine a Tao artifact in 100 years, the mission will be completed. I can freely use the rest of the time. Instead of waiting for news from Wang Yuehai, I might as well rush to the Yuanlu Great World's Jinwu Villa and meet Wang Yuehai personally. If this person is really unable to do anything, he cannot know of my existence. Getting the purple cloud Dharma spirit is my priority. Only by fusing with it can I truly cultivate and fuse with it. There are many immortals in the immortal Ao Great World that ascended from the Wutan world. If Wang Yuehai is unable to complete this task, I can use various merchant associations to search for the whereabouts of Seven-Star Child, Sheng Changsheng, and Huang Lingyao. After he made his decision, he immediately flew towards the depths of the void and activated the feather fan with all his strength, causing his speed to attain the speed of a mysterious immortal, and he was practically a wisp of starlight as he vanished into the depths of the void. 3 years later, after flying day and night, Su Feng finally arrived at the familiar border of the Yuanlu Great World with his feather fan from the star region near the Xianao Great World. After flying into the Yuan Fortune Great World, the aura was very familiar. He had also cultivated here for a period of time. Although he did not know much about the Yuan Fortune Great World, the aura was not unfamiliar to him. As for the location of the Jinwu Villa, he was even more familiar with it. After another half a year of traveling, they finally arrived at the Jinwu Villa, located in the middle of the two immortal realms. When he came here and unleashed his full power, he sensed the familiar sword chi of the Jinwu Villa. He then used the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique to slowly enter the Jinwu Villa's dojo. Fortunately, he had cultivated in the Jinwu Villa before, so he knew the cultivation methods, imprints, and all the secrets of the dojo. It was easy for him to come out of the dojo. Wang Yuehai's and Hua Wen's auras are both here. That's why I was able to return to the Jinwu Mountain Villa from the distant Starry River. He formed a hand seal and silently sent it into the training hall. He didn't choose to sneak into the dojo. With his current cultivation, his strength wasn't too great. His abilities were astonishing, but he didn't dare to casually step into a second-rate forces dojo. After waiting for a while, he floated in the forest. Soon, a person flew over from the foggy dojo of the Jinwu Villa. It was none other than Wang Yuehai. He flew out in fear and looked around. Just as he arrived at the forest, Su Feng appeared out of thin air. With his absolute speed and advantage, he displayed the speed of a peerless expert. You? Wang Yuehai was so shocked that he staggered. It looked like he didn't expect Su Feng to have such speed in just 100 years. It was obvious that his strength was astonishing. Su Feng glanced at him. Wang Yuehai, when I let you go back then, I gave you a clear order to hide in Hole 1 and the Jinwu Mountain Villa and find out where the Seven-Star Child is. Now that 100 years have passed, do you think that I won't return? Why haven't you done anything? I can't be blamed. Hua, when it already sent people to the immortal Ao Great World to gather information. However, this is the Yuan Great World after all, and that is the immortal Ao Great World. The immortals I know and Hua Wen's connections haven't been able to find out anything in the past 100 years. Furthermore, it's said that the Yellow Springs Demon Emperor's training hall has appeared in the Huangza astral realm. In the past few decades, Huan and the Jinwu Mountain Villa's experts have rushed to the Huangzi astral realm. As for finding the seven-star child and obtaining the divine image Jade Annulus, they have been put aside. Then why didn't you report to me? I just wanted to Wang Yuehai. Who do you think Su Fong is that can suppress you? I didn't kill you. I'm a person who won't kill. Come in, Wei Ran shouted. Before Wang Yuehai could react, he grabbed with his left hand, and a Heaven Immortal's divine might sucked Wang Yuehai into his palm. Wang Yuehai didn't even have the chance to struggle before he was sucked into the void dust cauldron. Later, Zhu Huang would slowly torture this guy inside. In less than an hour, Su Fong raised his left hand again, and human figure was pulled out of the void. Wang Yuehai was covered in blood, but he didn't have any expression. He knelt down and apologized to Su Fong before kowtowing. That's right. Su Fong knew very well what kind of big goblin Zhu Huang was. Does Huan know the whereabouts of the seven-star child? He heard some news. There's a possibility that it's related to the seven-star child. This person is in the immortal Ao Great World's Chanti Sacred Mountain. He called Immortal Yao. I have some impression of the Chanti Sacred Mountain. It's a mysterious faction in the immortal Ao Great World. I heard that they rarely enter the great immortal world. Why, yes, but this Chanti Sacred Mountain has some connections with the Jinwu Mountain Villa. The Jinwu Mountain Villa would sometimes forge some flying swords for the Chanti Sacred Mountain. Who is Immortal Yao? Immortal Yao is considered a true expert. I heard that he's a mystic immortal powerhouse. He represents the Chanti Sacred Mountain and has gone to many ascension pools to select geniuses for the Chanti Sacred Mountain. Later on, he also represented the Chanti Sacred Mountain and cooperated with the Jinwu Mountain Villa several times. The last time this person passed by the Jinwu Mountain Villa, when happened to be looking for the seven-star child. Immortal Yao said that he once met an immortal called the Seven-Star Child, a disciple of the immortal Ao Great World's Carefree Immortal Island. I don't know about the Carefree Immortal Island. Huan hasn't heard of it either. He only learned about the existence of the Carefree Immortal Island after Immortal Yao and searching through ancient books. The Carefree Immortal Island is located in the depths of the immortal Ao Great World. Although it's a faction, it doesn't have many disciples. It's not even famous in the immortal Ao Great World. But it's strange that Immortal Yao was very afraid when he mentioned the Carefree Immortal Island. It's a pity that the news of the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's Dao right has delayed Huan. Otherwise, he would have personally brought me to the immortal Ao Great World to take a look at the Carefree Immortal Island. What else do you know? From Immortal Yao's tone, I can tell that the Jinwu Manor is no match for the Carefree Immortal Island. Even their Chanti Sacred Mountain is no match for it. Therefore, Huan also knows this. If the seven-star child is really at the Carefree Immortal Island, Huan probably wouldn't dare to really deal with the seven-star child. Wang Yuehai, you don't have to stay in the Jinwu Manor anymore. Originally, I was counting on you to use Huan to help me find the whereabouts of the seven-star child. But after 100 years of experience, I learned that the Jinwu Manor is just a second-rate faction. They can't reach the immortal Ao Great World. I can only find the whereabouts of the seven-star child by myself. I won't kill you. You could be a slave under my command and learn alchemy, high-grade Dao weapons, and countless resources. Wang Yuehai initially thought that Su Fong was going to kill him. But when he heard about the high-grade Dao weapons and resources, his eyes lit up. After absorbing this person into the void dust cauldron, he glanced at the Jinwu Manor again. This was a faction. It was impossible for him to have any dealings with them in the future. As for Huan, he posed no threat to him. Before leaving the Yuan Fortune Great World, he found an immortal city. After inquiring about some large merchant associations, he paid them a large sum of money and asked them to send people to the Ascension Pool to receive the immortals who ascended from the lower worlds for him in the next 1,000 years. He estimated that in the next few hundred years, or even 1,000 years, there would be immortals ascending from the 5 small worlds below. In the past, he did not have the ability. But now, he had enough money to let the merchant associations handle this matter well. The merchant associations would send people to the Ascension Pool to receive the immortals who ascended from the lower worlds for him. After doing this, he left the Yuan Fortune Great World. A few years later, he returned to the Purple Moon Desolate City. And from the Purple Moon Desolate City, he hid his identity and changed his appearance. After a year, he finally stepped into the vast territory of the immortal Ao Great World. He found the closest immortal city and found a merchant association with a very deep background. After changing his name, he found these merchant associations to help him find the whereabouts of the seven-star child, Huang Lingyao, and Sheng Changsheng in the immortal Ao Great World. He also recorded their appearances in the rune. Of course, the main point was the carefree immortal island that he heard from Wang Yuehai. Perhaps the carefree immortal island was the place where the seven-star child stayed in the immortal Ao Great World. Before leaving, he also collected a lot of information about the carefree immortal island. In the future, if these merchant associations had any news, they would inform him through the rune. Purple Moon Desolate City. After arriving here, Su Fong transformed into a demonic cultivator. With his heaven immortal realm cultivation, he could be considered an expert. He cultivated alone on a mountain peak. He got Tung Ba to guard the entrance of the cave and summoned Void Dust to cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea. I have to master the Yellow Springs Blood Sea as soon as possible. Although I believe in the methods of peerless experts like Baishan Ancient Devil and Xianlu, there are countless strange people in this world. What if someone finds the Devil Emperor's Dao field before me? If he did not master the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, he would not be able to enter the Devil Emperor's Dao field. While cultivating the Yellow Springs, Su Fong also began to understand the carefree immortal island. From the information provided by the merchant associations, the carefree immortal island had not existed for long. It was only about 1,000,000 years. It was not a foundation that a large faction should have. For example, the Jinwu Villa had existed for countless years. Furthermore, an elder could easily cultivate for more than 1,000,000 years, or at least hundreds of thousands of years. The carefree immortal island also had disciples. Although there were not many disciples, there were still quite a number of them. There were tens of thousands of them, but they rarely came into contact with the outside world. However, they would also appear in the immortal Ao Great World. There were very few other records about the carefree immortal island. He really did not know what kind of faction it was. Since everything was left to the merchant associations to inquire, he did not need to personally take the risk to go to the carefree immortal island. The ability of the merchant associations was not to be doubted. Go. As Su Fong continued to devour pills, the Yellow Springs Blood Sea's movements became more and more astonishing. From time to time, large amounts of sword qi would condense, and from time to time, large amounts of black lotus blood threads would grow. From the looks of it, it was only a matter of time before Su Fong familiarized himself with the Yellow Springs Blood Sea and cultivated such a strange physical technique. Chapter 1064. Although the Purple Moon Desolate City was a dangerous place, there were many cultivators. Su Fong was a heaven immortal and could be considered a figure. If it was an immortal like the Cave Immortal, there would be danger everywhere. He cultivated for 3 years. Su Fong had a better grasp of the underworld blood sea. He could at least use a part of the Black Lotus True Body and the Blood Transformation True Body. Coupled with the Perfection Stage ability, the Blood Sea could finally use the Special Physique ability slightly. Thinking about how he still had to absorb the great pregnant purple gas when he went back, and how the Chamber of Commerce was secretly investigating the whereabouts of Seven-Star Child and the rest, and how the target was Carefree Immortal Island, he decided to go back and wait for it to disappear before cultivating in peace. Since he wanted to obtain the third part of the purple gas Dharma Spirit, he had to absorb more great pregnant purple gas and let his body fuse with the purple gas Dharma Spirit faster. After leaving the Purple Moon Desolate City, he rushed to the Star Palace. This distance also required some time. After flying for more than a month with the feather fan, Su Fong decided to find a place to rest when he was halfway there. Fortunately, there was a piece of quicksand floating in the void nearby. Quicksand was very terrifying and could swallow everything. However, it could only be so terrifying when there was an interstellar storm. There were also some substances in the quicksand that could be hidden and rest. However, what Su Fong did not expect was that just as he sat down on a big rock, created a formation, swallowed immortal pills, and rested for a short while, suddenly two life auras that surpassed the heaven immortal level and reached the Xian immortal level arrived in the quicksand in an instant. What a coincidence! It was too coincidental to be able to meet the same two cultivators under the same quicksand in the vast starry sky. It could only be said to be a coincidence. Forget it. Who they are has nothing to do with me. I'm just resting for a while. They are probably just resting for a while. He calmed down and did not care about what kind of cultivators the two people were. However, he was sure that they were definitely much stronger than him. However, the more he did not sense them, the more he heard them talking with the perfection stage ability that he was constantly releasing. It was a man and a woman. The woman's voice was as cold as snow, but it was as pleasant as an oriole's voice. Senior Marshal Brother, aren't you going to the Huang Zhe Star Realm to try your luck and see if you can find the Yellow Springs Devil Monarch's Field? The Star Palace is on the left, and the Huang Zhe Astral is on the right. Since we're here, I'll send you to the constellation of 9 heavens. This is also the order of the sect, the other man replied. I'm only going to the constellation of 9 heavens to meet that exceptional genius. It's not like I'm going to settle down with him after meeting him. I know. Senior Brother M.O. Fei. You want to see Huang Fu Fei? Haha. That Huang Fu Fei has an extraordinary beauty. We have known each other for many years, and she has indeed moved Senior Brother's heart. However, this kind of woman can't be seen often. It's better to keep a distance. I know my limits. After the trip to the Huang Zhe astral world is over, I can go and see her. Huang Fu Fei. He actually heard a man and a woman mention a very familiar name. Huang Fu Fei. Su Fong was suddenly curious. This man and woman seem to know Huang Fu Fei, but they don't come from the constellation of 9 heavens. Moreover, they speak as if the Star Palace is just an ordinary sect. It seems like this man and woman are definitely from a big sect. The man suddenly spoke again. Junior Marshal's sister, if you're unwilling, the sect won't force you. Even if your cultivation has reached a bottleneck, you can think of other ways to break through. You have such beauty and cultivation. In this big world, which man can be your cultivation partner? I've tried all kinds of methods. Even if the stone door enlightens me and I forcefully break through, it will only harm my future. This is the first time I've encountered a bottleneck. In the past, it was too smooth and my cultivation was unhindered. I only wanted to rely on myself to break through. If I can really meet a man who can help me break through the bottleneck, it's not a bad idea. Moreover, this world is so big, there will definitely be an extraordinary man. But this person won't be in the Star Palace. Senior Marshal Brother, why are you so decisive? Although the few special disciples in the Star Palace are overflowing with talent, they are arrogant and their abilities are not as good as yours and mine. However, they are arrogant. If the big forces can't find a suitable person, we can look for those famous masters in the big world. I heard that recently. A young genius called Prince Shingong suddenly appeared. In the past, he was somewhat famous, but now, he is a genius that everyone praises. Prince Shingong. Junior Marshal's sister, you've always been focused on cultivation and don't care about the outside world. Naturally, you don't know about Prince Shingong. However, I was fortunate enough to meet him once. This person is young and talented. He is a dragon among men. His reputation is out there. However, he keeps a low profile and treats people humbly. No matter how powerful he is, so what? These masters are only from clans or geniuses. They are not from big forces. For disciples like us, when we look for partners to cultivate together, they're usually from big forces. Even if I agree, the sect will not agree. Moreover, although the Star Palace and my sect are not in an alliance, we have been in contact for many years. Senior Marshal Brother, don't worry. I just came out to take a breather. The treasures there are good. Don't go. I heard that many experts from the Heaven Demon Mountain have been mobilized. If they encounter those demon monarchs, it will be difficult for them to escape unscathed. Moreover, that guy from the Huiyin Shinrikyo has also gone to the Huang Zhe Astral. Back then, he really went overboard with you. This time, I came to the Huangze astral to teach him a lesson. He also came to the Huangze astral. Why wouldn't the Huiyin Shinrikyo come? They're very close to the Huangze astral. Back then, what he did to you caused you to suffer so much humiliation. You can forget about it, but I can't. Don't go looking for him. After so many years, his cultivation has probably reached another level. I don't want you to go looking for him. Okay, I'm just saying, a man and a woman were talking. When they suddenly mentioned the Huiyin Shinrikyo, they suddenly stopped talking. It was as if the two of them suddenly disappeared. Huiyin Shinrikyo. Su Fang also found it strange. Why couldn't he feel the two of them? Could it be that they suddenly left? They probably left. With their cultivation, they probably surpassed the Xian immortal realm. With such a high cultivation, even if they wanted to leave, he would not be able to sense it. Coincidentally, the two of them were also related to the Huiyin Shinrikyo. This big force made Su Fang think of the owner of the Tao body, Yu Jingyan. It seemed that the great world was very big, but it was also very small. The man and woman were probably from a big force in one of the immortal realms. After resting for another day and recuperating, Su Fang flew out of the depths of the quicksand. As soon as he arrived in the world of nothingness and released his great perfection ability, he suddenly saw two illusory figures floating in front of him with his extraordinary vision. From the rough outline of the figures, he could see that it was a man and a woman. His heart skipped a beat. Su Fang immediately turned around and sped away. His face was covered in sweat. A dual Tao sky, immortal realm devil can actually detect our existence. A man's voice suddenly pierced through the void. Su Fang's hair stood on end. Before he could fly a few steps, the two figures of a man and a woman really appeared in front of him. Su Fang took a closer look and frowned. It was as if he was facing a big enemy. When he saw the man and woman's Taoist robes, a big force instantly rose. It came from the immortal Ao Great World and was called the Clear Skies Thousand Scrolls Door. The Taoist robes of the man and woman had many Taoist patterns on them. They looked like ancient green lamps and ancient scrolls. In the Great Worlds near the Yuan Fortune Great World and the immortal Ao Great World, only one sect had such obvious Taoist robes. That was the top faction from the immortal Ao Great World. The Clear Skies Thousand Scrolls Door. The man and woman seemed to be very far apart. The man's voice was like thunder. Disciples of the demonic Tao should be killed. Murderous aura. The murderous aura of such an expert could instantly turn Su Fang into dust. Su Fang quickly bowed and used his vital energy to dissolve the demonic qi and appearance. Seniors, you have misunderstood. I'm not a demonic Tao cultivator. I only cultivate a demonic Tao cultivation technique. I am a disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. After saying that, the demonic qi disappeared. Then, it was the star aura that represented a big force. The Taoist robes were not demonic robes. They were layers of clear, star, Tao patterns. In an instant, he changed from an evil, demonic Tao cultivator to a righteous disciple of the Star Palace. As expected, you are a disciple of the Star Palace. As an expert, the man instantly recognized Su Fang's identity. However, he remained strong. You are just a disciple. How dare you spy on us? Su Fang explained. Senior, what are you talking about? This is a matter of first come, first served. I came to the quicksand first. Both of you came later. Moreover, I did not spy on you. How would I have the guts to do so? Don't bully a heaven immortal disciple. He is also a disciple of the Star Palace. The woman whose face could not be seen clearly suddenly spoke. This lad is not ordinary. He is only a heaven immortal. He can cultivate a demonic Tao cultivation technique to such an extent. He can control it as he wishes. Moreover, we did not discover his existence at first. The man was not going to let it go. However, the woman secretly said something to the man so that he did not say another word. The woman suddenly turned to leave. When the man was about to leave, he suddenly looked at Su Fang. Junior sister, I remember that although you and I have a certain understanding of the Star Palace, we have never been to the Star Palace. Why don't you let this lad lead the way? This way, I will feel more at ease. I like to be alone, the woman replied coldly. But if you go and look for Huang Fu Fei like this, I will not feel at ease. The man stopped the woman. Su Fong suddenly bowed. Are the two of you going to the dojo? Are you going to look for Huang Fu Fairy? Speaking of which, it is such a coincidence. I happen to know senior sister Huang Fu. Moreover, I also have the surname of Huang Fu. Oh. The man did not stop the woman anymore. He turned to look at Su Fong again and fixed his gaze on the identity token. His divine power almost crushed Su Fong to death. Su Fong's identity token flashed Xianguan. The man immediately withdrew his divine power. This lad is not lying. His name is Huang Fu Shaoying. He is also a nominated special disciple in the constellation of 9 heavens. I did not expect that a heaven immortal disciple could become a nominated special disciple. He must have a certain level of attainment in refining weapons. Then, he secretly communicated with the woman for a while. The man then looked at Su Fong coldly and released his divine power. Su Fong suddenly shuttled through the void. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the man and the woman. It was also the first time he saw the two of them at such a close distance. The man's eyes were filled with arrogance. With one look, one could tell that he was a peerless figure from the gate of myriad scrolls. Moreover, he was naturally a special disciple. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. His cheekbones were unusually high, and he emitted a strong aura. As for the woman, she was dressed in a green robe. Her body emitted a fragrance, and she had a black shawl. It was a pity that her face was covered by a white, jade-like mask. Only a pair of cold eyes could be seen. Chapter 1065. Su Fong immediately bowed, not daring to act rashly in front of such a disciple. The clear sky, 1,000 scrolls door was extraordinary. These two disciples must also be special disciples. At least, they were disciples of the same level as Huang Fu Fei. The masked woman said calmly, I can't feel the same life aura as Huang Fu Fei from him. Is that so? The man was surprised. His life aura was different from Huang Fu Fei's. This meant that this Huang Fu Shaoying was not a disciple of the same family as Huang Fu Fei. This woman was very powerful. She could see through life aura. Life aura contained true qi, blood qi, and the origin. Su Fong immediately explained, Seniors, I'm a disciple with a different surname. I was given the name Huang Fu Shaoying because of my contributions to the Huang Fu family. I won't hide my identity. Yes, Huang Fu Shaoying, lead the way for my junior sister until she sees Huang Fu Fei. Here are tens of thousands of high-grade immortal essence pills. If you do this well, I, Gu Huajun, will reward you greatly in the future. The man, Gu Huajun, threw a treasure bottle to Su Fong. He then looked at the woman decisively. Junior sister, I shouldn't be worried about you with your strength. However, take this trip as a distraction. I'll take my leave first. Swoosh. Gu Huajun glanced at the woman one more time before disappearing. What a fast speed. What amazing control of the void. This was the embodiment of one's realm and strength. Su Fong could not even do 1/10 of the other parties. Gu Huajun. Su Fong remembered the peerless genius of the clear sky, 1,000 scrolls door. Fairy, please follow me to the Tao sect. He bowed to the white jade-masked woman again and politely led the woman into the depths of the void. The woman did not say another word. She quietly followed Su Fong and flew into the void. The two of them flew side by side with the speed of heaven immortals and an atmosphere as calm as still water. Su Fong did not think too much about who the woman was. He only felt that since these two experts came to find Huang Fu Fei and had a good relationship with Huang Fu Fei, he could better maintain his relationship with Huang Fu Fei in the dojo. They flew at this speed for 3 months before they finally passed through a large amount of star fog. They saw the constellation of 9 heavens floating in the depths of the outer realm. The white jade-masked woman was slightly surprised to be able to establish a dojo in such a dangerous environment. Senior, let's enter the training hall now, Su Fong said politely. An hour later, Talisman, under the white jade-masked woman's attention, Huang Fu Fei's voice was heard. Let sister wait at Huang Fu's dojo. I'm still in the Huang Zhe astral realm. I'll rush back as soon as possible. Senior, look. Su Fong looked at the woman. The woman nodded. I don't like to go to other dojos, especially when the owner is not around. You should have a dojo, right? I'll go there to rest and wait for Huang Fu Fei to come back. I'm temporarily cultivating in the treasure mystic realm. That's an internal dojo and is not suitable. How about this? I have a cultivation area at the side peak of Huang Fu's dojo. I'll bring you there. However, my dojo is very simple. It's fine. All right. Since the woman said so, Su Fong decisively activated his disciple identity token and passed the message to the higher-ups in the treasure mystic realm, as well as Xiao Xiao and Xiao Ranjung in Huangfu. He wanted to let the higher-ups know that the white jade-masked woman had entered the dojo to prevent any trouble. Su Fongda led the masked woman to the dojo's enchantment. No one came out to ask after they passed through the enchantment. It was obvious that the higher-ups had passed the message down and the disciples had already known. The woman was also observing the Star Palace's dojo during this period of time. After about an hour, she arrived at Huang Fu Fei. At the side peak, Su Fong brought the woman to the side peak palace where he had cultivated in the past. Unexpectedly, Yin Lu had already brought a dozen maids to wait for them. It was obvious that they knew about the masked woman's arrival. I'll rest here for the time being. If Huang Fu Fei comes back, inform me as soon as possible. Yin Lu and the rest came here to bring the masked woman to Huang Fu Fei's dojo. However, she declined politely and let Su Fong lead her into the palace. Su Fong also let Yin Lu leave first. After arriving at the palace, Su Fong gave the best room to the masked woman. She did not stand on ceremony and closed the door to rest in the room. Previously, I neglected this point. Huang Fu Fei must still be in the Huang Zhe astral realm. I don't know how long I have to wait. I can't cultivate the yellow spring blood sea. In a room on the other side of the main hall, Su Fong sat cross-legged. After pondering for a while, he gave up on the idea of returning to the treasure artifact's secret realm to absorb the great pregnant purple gas. He started to cultivate the ethereal enlightenment, 9 truth, 9 yang, an illusory fire cloud. Actually, what he wanted to cultivate the most was the yellow spring blood sea. However, it was a demonic technique. He had to be extremely cautious and use the void dust cauldron transformation to cultivate it. However, he could not use the void dust cauldron transformation in front of anyone. Although cultivating the ethereal enlightenment is still incomparably profound, it has allowed me to cultivate the world fragments at a faster pace. My yin and yang world energy has also become more profound, and it will definitely help me cultivate the 9 yang 9 transformation. However, this cultivation technique only has a rough mental cultivation technique. It hasn't given me any divine abilities yet. That means I still haven't truly comprehended the ethereal enlightenment. This cultivation technique has many legends, and its origin is not simple. It's naturally not easy to cultivate. Fortunately, the ethereal enlightenment's true essence was the evolution of reality and illusion. From nothingness, it could create reality and illusion. From reality, it could create nothingness. Creating reality and nothingness was equivalent to creating a divine ability. Furthermore, there were many legends about the ethereal enlightenment. That was the reason Su Fong had been so persistent in cultivating it. Not long after, the woman came out for a walk. When Su Fong sensed her, he went out to welcome her. He brought the masked woman around the palace. Although the masked woman was cold and distant, he could feel a faint sadness from her aura. She was different from Huang Fu Fei. Huang Fu Fei had the sharp aura of a man. As for this woman, she was truly quiet. However, from the way she spoke and the way she acted, she naturally had an imposing aura. It was just that she normally didn't release it. This wait lasted for more than a year. Finally, the day arrived. Su Fong hastily rushed out of the palace. He saw Huang Fu Fei, who was being respectfully welcomed by Yin Lu, flying into the palace. "Young miss." Su Fong bowed to welcome her. Huang Fu Fei only nodded casually and entered the palace. At that moment, the masked woman walked over from the other side. Huang Fufei immediately walked over and passionately held hands with the woman. She acted as if the others didn't exist. Elder Sister Xuanxin, we haven't seen each other for nearly 1,000 years. The last few times we met, our disciples were still fighting over treasures in the desolate wastelands. Time really does fly. Sister, you're becoming more and more beautiful, as expected of the peerless beauty that every man admires. The masked woman and Huang Fufei sat down. Suddenly, that tranquility disappeared. When it comes to beauty, elder sister is number one. Even younger sister can't be ranked. Elder sister, are you about to break through to a new realm? Yes, I've been stuck in this realm for 1,000 years. This time, I came here because the elders of my sect secretly contacted me and told me to come take a look. Is that so? When Huang Fufei heard this, he asked Yin Lu to serve tea first. She also asked Su Fong to stand aside. When the masked woman Xuanxin was drinking tea, Huang Fufei suddenly asked Su Fong to come out. She walked in front of her and took out a storage ring. I've been in the Huangze astral world all this time. Not long after I left, I heard that you've only been in the precious artifacts secret realm for more than 10 years. You've been able to refine 2 low-grade Taoist artifacts with your divine immortal cultivation in such a short time. You've even been nominated as a special disciple. Very good. Su Fong thanked her. Thank you, young miss. I've listened to your teachings and didn't dare to slack off. After entering the precious artifact secret realm, I've been focusing on refining artifacts. The masked woman Xuanxin suddenly praised. Little sister, to be able to refine artifacts with your divine immortal cultivation, this cultivator is a good seedling. Even in the clear skies, Thousand Scrolls door, you won't be able to find such a seedling. Huang Fufei shook her head. Elder sister, you're joking. How can the disciples of my sect compare to the clear skies, Thousand Scrolls door? This Huang Fu Shaoying is just an insignificant disciple with a different surname. I saw that he was pitiful and hard-working, so I decided to focus on him. I don't keep trash by my side. Fortunately, he's hard-working. Otherwise, he wouldn't be qualified to cultivate in my Huangfu clan. You think I'm pitiful? The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. Su Fong, who was in a bowing position, felt a stab in his heart. A sharp sword pierced through his heart. Huang Fufei was too hurtful. Did she think of him as a pig or a dog? However, Su Fong smiled coldly. This was the truth. In Huang Fufei's eyes, he had no status at all. He was just a servant. Such a short change of heart didn't attract Huang Fufei's attention. To be honest, she knew from her heart that no matter how talented Su Fong was, he wouldn't go beyond her control. Su Fong took the reward and retreated to one side. Elder sister, I still don't understand why you suddenly came to my place. I also heard you say that this was arranged by the elders. What's the reason? Huang Fufei asked Xuanxin with concern. Xuanxin said in a helpless tone, to be honest, I've reached a bottleneck at the last step. My sect wants me to find a man to be my cultivation partner and undergo dual cultivation. It can also be considered as officially forming an alliance with a big powerhouse. So, I came out to take a look. The first thing that came to my mind was the constellation of 9 heavens. With such a relationship between you and me, the Constellation Palace is also a big powerhouse. This isn't your personality. Elder sister, you've always been cultivating by yourself. Why would you choose the path of dual cultivation? Huang Fufei was very surprised. The bottleneck is too difficult. My sect tried to break through it forcefully, but they all failed. If I really break through forcefully, I'll encounter more bottlenecks in the future. Moreover, I won't be able to forcefully break through anymore. I just came out to take a breather. How can I find a man that I'm slightly satisfied with in such a short time? Elder sister, you're the #1 fairy whose name shakes the world. That's right. Don't blame me for talking too much. It's rumored that you had a relationship with that Yin Sun Shin from Huiyin Shinrikyo. Don't mention him. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have reached such a bottleneck. It's my fault that I met the wrong person and misjudged him. After experiencing that incident, I know that there's no man in this world that I can rely on. In this journey to find a cultivation partner, I don't expect to find someone that I'm attracted to. I just want a man that's passable and has some heroic spirit. Elder sister, your requirements are so high. It won't be easy to find one. Elder sister, don't be anxious. Since this matter was arranged by the elders, you'll stay in the training hall for a while. Take your time. There are a few men in our training hall who are also extremely outstanding. Huang Fufei comforted Xuanxin. At that moment, the two women seemed to have a very deep relationship. Chapter 1066. The two women chatted like this without hiding anything. Su Fong heard it from the side. He never expected that the woman in the white jade mask named Xuanxin would come to the constellation of 9 heavens to choose a dual cultivation partner. He really did not expect it. Dual cultivation partner. For most women, this was a rather obscure matter. On one hand, many women would not rely on men to cultivate. Dual cultivation partners had always depended on whether the man and woman were willing or not, and it was a private matter. For Xuanxin to openly come to another place to find a dual cultivation partner, it was considered official business. It was a way for the two sects to form an alliance or to get closer to each other. It was very common. Although Su Fong had never seen it before, he had heard of such things happening in other big sections. It was very normal. Xuanxin gives me the feeling that she is as cold as an iceberg. I didn't expect that she would find a man to dual cultivate with just to reach a bottleneck. Su Fong still could not understand. Kid, don't think of dual cultivation partners as too dirty. It's not just a matter of a man and a woman in bed. Luo suddenly said, after cultivating to this point, you should know how difficult it is to cultivate dermic powers, divine apertures, and heavenly caves. Everything is based on world fragments. A person will always encounter bottlenecks in cultivation. This is something that every cultivator will encounter. Some bottlenecks can be solved, but some can't. I didn't think too much about this. I just feel that if you're a genius, you will solve the problem by yourself. For a moment, a person appeared in Su Fong's mind. Xiao Meier. Once for him, she had also undergone dual cultivation to allow him to break through and obtain astonishing strength. As an ascender, there was only one thought in his heart about cultivation, and that was to rely on himself to solve all the problems. He thought that a genius like Xuanxin should have a firm Tao heart and rely on himself to increase his realm, and not choose to rely on others to solve the problem. Luo continued, magic power, heavenly cave, divine aperture, and young immortal are all very difficult to cultivate, especially when one's realm is constantly increasing. Now that you have broken through to the heavenly immortal realm, it will take you 10 years to break through each step. Other cultivators will need dozens of years, or at least 100 years. When a cultivator is trapped for 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years, they can only rely on external forces to resolve it. Moreover, some external forces are not a bad thing. It can be considered a kind of opportunity. Things like opportunities exist everywhere. In a world of cultivators, women have it harder than men. When he finished speaking, Su Fong also agreed. He glanced at Xuanxin from the corner of his eye. Indeed, it was difficult for him to sense the problem with her cultivation. Huang Fufei suddenly stood up. Sister, let's go to my place. Xuanxin declined politely. Thank you for your kindness, but I'd better stay here. If I go to your place, someone will come to bother you. It's quiet here, and I'm used to this kind of environment. That's good. Anyway, this is my training ground. I'll ask someone to wait outside. If you need anything, just ask. Huang Fufei immediately explained to Su Fong, Yin Lu, and the others in front of Xuanxin. After she left, Xuanxin returned to her room alone. Su Fong did not realize that trouble had just begun. The next day, Su Fong, who was cultivating in his room, suddenly sensed that there were people outside the palace. There were quite a few of them. When he came to the door, there were about 100 disciples, and they were all core disciples. Yin Lu brought a few girls to set up a formation to prevent these people from approaching the palace. However, these male disciples kept talking about the masked woman. Obviously, they were here for the masked woman. Fortunately, there was a formation seal. Su Fong invited Yin Lu to the side. What's the background of that Xuanxin inside? Why is it so noisy when she comes? You don't know the first fairy Xuanxin. Yin Lu was startled. Can I say that I don't know her? If you don't know her, then why did you bring her to the training ground? I met her by accident outside the void. She said that she was Miss Huangfu. She seemed to be an acquaintance of young Miss, so I brought her here. Moreover, her realm is too shocking. I don't have the qualifications to ask about her. I don't even know about the clear skies, thousand scrolls door. Fairy Xuanxin is known as the first fairy. First is her strength, second is her appearance. Fairy Xuanxin is a famous beauty in the great immortal world. She is also the #1 beauty in the clear skies, thousand scrolls door. Together with young Miss, every man admires her. She is even stronger than young Mississippi. Therefore, many male disciples in our training ground know that the first fairy is here. I understand. He immediately understood. The #1 beauty, the first fairy. No wonder she covered her face with a mask. It seemed that a beautiful face could sometimes be a femme fatale. Seeing that more core disciples had suddenly appeared outside the formation, Su Fong frowned. How could he still be in the mood to cultivate? He suddenly asked Yin Lu curiously, I heard young Miss mention that Huiyin Shinrikyo has a disciple called Yin Senshin. Who is he? He seems to have a close relationship with the first fairy here. Every great power has some talented disciples. Huiyin Shinrikyo's Yin Senshin is such a disciple. He is famous in the great immortal world and is incomparably respected. Even young Miss is not as good as him. I heard many times that young Miss used this person to encourage young master. It can be seen that this person has also received young Miss's approval. Moreover, Yin Senshin seems to have a good relationship with young Miss in private. This matter can only be discussed between you and young Mississippi. Don't let young Miss know. Of course, I won't tell anyone. I also heard young Miss talk about Yin Senshin and Fairy Xuanxin. This Fairy Xuanxin is really pitiful. Back then, Yin Senshin pursued her fiercely. It was a beautiful story. The #1 man pursued the #1 woman. Later, I heard that Yin Senshin took the initiative to break up with Xuanxin. As for what happened, no one knows. It can't be. A beauty like her can also be dumped. It really made Su Fongda's jaw drop. The #1 beauty could also be dumped. He could not imagine it, even if he cracked his head. Yin Lu said, All right, let's not talk about this in private. You go in and rest. I will deal with this kind of thing. Anyway, I have experience. Since Yin Lu was guarding the palace at all times, Su Fong was relieved. He turned and entered the palace. However, he still could not understand how the #1 beauty could be dumped. Forget it. This is other people's business. If I had known earlier, I would have avoided trouble. He returned to his room and continued to swallow pills. His cultivation was constantly advancing to the peak of the second Dao realm. Similarly, Xianhuang, Six Paths Pagoda, Starry Daylight Sword, and Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd were also constantly improving in quality. All the junior commanders, Demon Immortals, Tung Ba, and Gorilla Demons were improving their cultivation. Especially Green Feather King, Bai Ling, Zhu Huang, Undying Turtle, Wooling Goblin, and Tong Tian Demon Venerable, these extraordinary big goblins. Last time, they obtained the corpse of a Chamber of Commerce's expert. Coupled with Su Fong's resources, their strength was constantly approaching Su Fong's. Now, Su Fong's overall strength was not difficult to kill a mystic immortal. Even a peerless expert who surpassed the mystic immortal would not be a real threat to his life. Sooner or later, he would no longer have to fear experts like Huangfu Fei, Mu Shuo, and even Li Tianqi. Boom! Who knew? Just a few days of rest. Suddenly, a roar came from the entrance of the palace. It shook Su Fong so much that he immediately flashed out of his room and came to the main entrance of the palace. The array set up by Yin Lu was being easily broken by a few disciples. And those disciples, they actually approved the internal dojo. People with the strength of Mu Shuo, Qin Kuei, and Yuan Yifang must be important figures in the internal dojo. These disciples actually looked down on Yin Lu. That's right. Although Yin Lu was the young Mrs. Maid, she was still a servant. And the disciples who could break through the array must have an extraordinary background. These disciples even ignored a heaven immortal disciple. They strode into the palace and did not allow Su Fong to say a word. They came to the main entrance of the inner palace, which was outside the main hall where Fairy Xuanxin was resting. Fairy, we have admired you for a long time. Today, we are here to pay you a visit. These disciples were all from the Grand Ancient Dojo. The disciple token had a terrifying Dao pattern that made the disciples of the other dojos look half a head shorter. Fortunately, they did not directly barge into the main hall. All of them cupped their fists and bowed, just like the young masters of aristocratic families, modest and polite. But after waiting for half an hour, there was no response from the inside. It was as if Fairy Xuanxin had already left. Su Fong, who was a few feet away, could only wait with Yin Lu. Yin Lu secretly looked at Su Fong. These people were rejected. They should have left. Who knows? Su Fong replied. We have admired you for a long time. We hope to see you. They did not give up. In the end, after half an hour, there was still no movement from the inside. Fairy Xuanxin's meaning was clear. She did not want to see anyone. After 2 hours, the disciples finally gave up. But so be it. You have already been played by a man, and you are still putting on airs. Don't spread this kind of thing. Go away first. You have already done it, but you are not afraid of others saying that I am giving you face by coming to see you. This kind of slut is not worth it. In front of Su Fong and Yun Lu, the disciples revealed their true nature as they left. They could not see Fairy Xuanxin and even cursed, hearing that Su Fong did not have a good impression of these core disciples at all. If you can't eat grapes, you say that the grapes are sour. Even if there was something wrong with her, you should not expose her scars in front of her. After sending off the few of them, Yin Lu and Su Fong came out of the temporary imperial residence and rebuilt the array formation. When she saw Su Fong staring at the backs of the few people, she sighed. The great world might be huge, but the matter of Yin Xianxin pursuing the mystic immortal fairy back then was known by everyone. This kind of matter naturally spread and became the topic of conversation after meals. Servants get lost. Unexpectedly, a few core disciples from the inner dojos flew over forcefully. Despite Yin Lu's repeated pleas and humility, these people still forcefully broke through the array and swaggered into the palace. But the result was the same as the previous disciples. How could they see Fairy Xuanxin? During this period, more and more disciples came to watch, and even Su Fong saw that Mu Shuo was among them. Even disciples like Huang Fuju came to watch the show. This usually cold side peak was suddenly in an uproar. The number one fairy was here. Wouldn't she be squeezed in by male disciples? Su Fong also saw how astonishing the charm of the number one fairy was. Gradually, more than 10,000 core disciples came over because of her fame. Most of the disciples ignored Yin Lu and Su Fong and swaggered in, but no one could see Fairy Xuanxin. Boom! Suddenly, outside the palace, Su Fong and Yin Lu were doing their best to maintain order. Who knew that the inner palace would suddenly shake, and Xianguang Qi would explode from within? Su Fong hurriedly had Yin Lu stand guard outside the palace. In a flash, he arrived at the main hall of the palace. He saw that several core disciples had actually not seen Fairy Xuanxin, so they used their divine abilities to attack the door. Fortunately, there was an invisible array at the door that blocked them, but these people were desperate and still dared to use force. Fairy, I'm sorry, but we won't see you today. We won't easily leave this place. The disciples clearly wanted to continue using force. They were too overbearing. Something's wrong with Huang Fu Fei. With such a huge commotion, why hasn't Huang Fu Fei shown himself? Su Fong's fury burned within him, but he could sense that something was very strange. Chapter 1067. This kind of abnormality made him feel uneasy. Seeing these core disciples attacking the array formation outside the door, Su Fong gradually could not suppress the anger in his heart. A surge of anger spewed out from the depths of his heart. Su Fong suppressed his emotions and secretly asked, Yin Lu, did you not report this to the young miss? If these people continue to act so fearlessly, what do they take our Huangfu Taoist temple for? Yin Lu also felt helpless. I asked the young miss, but she didn't respond. She's probably in some space dealing with something important. Is there an end to this? Don't be so agitated. Fairy Xuanxin is extremely powerful. Her title as the #1 fairy is not undeserved. These core disciples are unable to break her formation. That's not the problem. These disciples are too overbearing. This is the Huangfu Taoist temple, my palace. How can they come in and out like this? What are you trying to do? Naturally, at this moment, the anger that had been suppressed deep within him could no longer be suppressed. It made Su Fong look like a furious lion. A fiery light erupted from his eyes and swept over those core disciples. There were 4 of them in total. The weakest was at least on the level of Mu Shua. There were even experts on the level of Qing Kuei and Yuan Yifang. They were going too far. Su Fong suddenly held his breath. Seeing that those 4 were unwilling to let him off, they were about to attack again. Their aura even caused quite a few tiles to fall from the surrounding palace. If this continued, the palace would be destroyed. Senior apprentice brothers. A calm voice was like a star in the dark night, sweeping towards those 4 experts who were about to attack. Su Fong had come 10 meters away and cupped his fists in greeting. Just a sky immortal disciple. Scram to the side. It was time for you. One of the disciples from the grand ancient Taoist temple shouted arrogantly. But Su Fong's feet seemed to have grown roots. Senior apprentice brothers, you are disciples of the grand ancient Taoist temple. Your statuses are noble. This is my Taoist temple. I hope senior apprentice brothers can give me some peace and quiet. This is also a Taoist temple, and many disciples still need to cultivate. Trash, scram. Another disciple actually treated Su Fong as a fly. Divine might shot out from his eyes, transforming into a nebula and pouncing towards Su Fong. This divine might was enough to send Su Fong flying and injure him heavily. But what they didn't expect was that this divine power only shattered with a bang around Su Fong. And Su Fong didn't even take a step back. He was still standing there with his fists clasped. Su Fong was still suppressing his anger. The disciples of the grand ancient dojo are all people of virtue and prestige, and their statuses are also honorable. They are not people that a disciple like me can compare to. Please conduct yourself with dignity. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You dare to offend disciples like us? Why don't you take a look at yourself in the mirror? How much weight do you have? The 4 disciples suddenly turned around. Their gazes were even more startled than lightning. Su Fong glanced at the 4 people. Apart from the disciples of the great ancient Taoist rite, they also belonged to the sleeping immortal valley, heavenly cloud cave, Bodhi spiritual world, and Ruoshui spiritual land. He was very familiar with heavenly cloud cave and sleeping immortal valley. He was not unfamiliar with the Bodhi spiritual world either. Wang Yuzhen was there. As for Ruoshui spiritual land, he also had a certain understanding. The foundations of these 4 great Taoist rites surpassed those of the Huangfu Taoist rite, especially when these 4 people were core disciples of the great ancient Taoist rite. The 4 disciples' gazes already determined that Su Fong was someone they must kill. They seemed to be in a state of mutual hostility. Su Fong's calm gaze finally had a domineering aura at this moment, and he no longer clasped his fists. For senior brothers, please calm down. I don't want to stop you from doing anything, and I don't have the qualifications to do so. But this is my palace, and I do have some authority. Moreover, the fairy doesn't want to see you, so why do you have to ask for trouble? You're still angry. The disciples glared at Su Fong. I have the right to speak. Senior brothers are disciples of the great ancient Taoist rite, and your statuses are much higher than mine. I'm just an ordinary disciple, and I only have this bit of right to speak. Senior brothers, please conduct yourselves with dignity and come visit senior sister next time. You really are courting death. Our great ancient Taoist rites disciples are actually being criticized by an ordinary disciple. I'm not courting death, but today I'm only here to protect my own Taoist rite. If someone barks like a dog in your Taoist rite, what do you think? Dog! The auras of the 4 disciples suddenly burst out, turning into rolling waves of divine might that rushed towards Su Fong without any explanation. If you want to fight, then just come out. I'll be waiting." Swoosh. Su Fong left the palace's main hall in a flash. He hadn't expected that this divine might would create a huge hole in the palace's interior. The palace was originally not peaceful, and a large number of disciples who had been watching suddenly felt their ears go numb. A figure flew out from the flames, and with a few more rustling sounds, another 4 powerful disciples from the great ancient Taoist rite appeared in front of the palace. After Su Fong landed, countless people began to size him up. They didn't know what had happened to this disciple, but he had actually gotten into a conflict with the disciples of the 4 great ancient Taoist rites. "Sir," Yin Lu was quite frightened, and she didn't know what to do. "You just have to continue guarding the formation." At this time, Su Fong looked at the 4 disciples who were flying over. He smiled and said, "Senior apprentice brothers, my palace has already been destroyed by you. Senior apprentice brothers, you've already vented your anger. Can you let this disciple off?" Oof. Who knew? The 4 disciples arrived above the formation outside the palace. One of them didn't let him off. He pointed at Su Fong and said, "You're just an ordinary disciple, but you spoke rudely to us and insulted us. According to the sect's rules, we have the right to punish you. Today, in front of so many disciples, we'll let you know what the sect's rules are." When Su Fong heard that, he knew how difficult it would be to resolve this problem. "Senior apprentice brothers, you still don't plan on letting an ordinary disciple like me off. You're all esteemed disciples. You were disrespectful to your senior apprentice brothers and violated the sect's rules. This is a matter of the law, not some kind of suppression. Senior apprentice brothers like you, I don't need to be respectful to you. All of you came here for Fairy Xuanxin. At first, you were all well-cultivated senior apprentice brothers. But when she didn't want to see you, you just had to force her to see you. You even attacked her in the palace. Do your actions match your status? Furthermore, this is my palace. Although I'm just an ordinary disciple, I still have the right to make people leave and let people in. As the master of the palace, I'll tell the 4 of you that you're not welcome here. Don't take a single step in here in the future." How arrogant! When he said that, the 4 disciples were really anxious. The surrounding disciples also began to size up this ordinary disciple in front of them. He looked ordinary, but some of them had sharp eyes. They saw something from his identity token. One of the 4 disciples suddenly released a starry nebula. "Today, we'll punish you according to the sect's rules. This is my palace. I have the right. What does it have to do with you? Since you want to attack me, don't think that you can bully me just because I'm an ordinary disciple." Dang, dang, dang. Unexpectedly, just as that disciple was about to attack, Su Fong quickly retreated. Furthermore, he continuously formed hand seals, and a barrier suddenly appeared around the palace. Furthermore, he continuously released dozens of talismans. How can a celestial immortal disciple set up such a complicated barrier? Furthermore, he was one step ahead and buried the formation around the palace. A large number of disciples seemed to have forgotten that they had come here to see the number 1 fairy. At this moment, they were all paying attention to how Su Fong and the 4 grand ancient Taoist rites disciples would resolve this dispute. However, they all saw Su Fong attack first. Who would dare to believe that? What does a small formation count for? One of the 4 disciples took a step forward, and a wave of chi surged like a nebula baleful aura in the starry sky. It pounced on the barrier. Boom! With one strike, a hole was easily created in the formation controlled by Su Fong. Just as that disciple was about to break the entire barrier, the hole suddenly condensed. Furthermore, a large amount of black talismans appeared. They floated around the formation. The moment the formation was broken, Su Fong had already retreated. He was alone in the formation, floating in front of the palace. He felt that he had to contend against the 4 grand ancient Taoist rites disciples with his celestial immortal strength. So what if this person is a mystic immortal? He immediately released a hand seal. Sizzle, sizzle unexpectedly, from the countless talismans floating inside the formation, a special poisonous gas was released. There was also a little bit of demonic aura. It was blood red in color and looked extremely bloody and evil. It should not appear in a Taoist rites like Star Palace. So much poison. The surrounding disciples could not help but shiver at this moment. Poison, this was an existence that all righteous cultivators feared. So this celestial immortal disciple actually thought of using poison to stop me. The disciple who attacked previously was a mystic immortal. He was very powerful and much stronger than Huang Fuju. Huang Fuju was also a low-level mystic immortal, but this person was a high-level mystic immortal. Unknowingly, the interior of the palace's formation was filled with blood-red poisonous gas. Su Fong floated in front of the palace and stood with his hands behind his back. You grand ancient Taoist rites disciples are my senior brothers, but this is my palace. Usually, I will not offend you, but today, I only want to say one thing. Do not create trouble in my Taoist rites. My other senior brothers, if you want to see the fairy, just come in. If the fairy wants to see you, I will not stop you. I do not have the authority to do so. But if you want to create trouble in my palace, as the saying goes, a tree needs its bark, and a man needs his face. Ha! The grand ancient Taoist rites disciple who attacked suddenly laughed. You are a disciple who violated the rules. Everyone saw how you disobeyed your senior brothers, ignored the rules, and cultivated an evil poisonous gas. Don't think that the poisonous gas can protect you. Senior brother, if you want to bully my disciple, then do it. You destroyed my Taoist rites and even stepped on my head. Do you want me to welcome you to destroy my Taoist rites? Arrogant disciple. The grand ancient Taoist rites disciple looked at the three grand ancient Taoist rites disciples behind him. He was in a dilemma. But when he thought about how he was a disciple of the grand ancient Taoist rites, he didn't have any misgivings. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to step on Su Fong in front of everyone. Hoo. A sword light turned into a sword array. As the grand ancient Taoist rites disciple waved his hand, a formless palm imprint controlled it to attack the poisonous gas array that covered the palace. The sword light of the sword array had already passed through the array below. Its power was more than 10 times stronger than before. This was clearly using power to suppress the array. It could instantly destroy the array and turn the palace into ruins. But who would have thought that Su Fong would also change his hand seals? The blood-colored poisonous gas actually burned, turning into a large number of palm imprints that constantly danced in the air. What an evil cultivation technique. Boom, boom, boom. The sword array instantly fell into the blood-colored poisonous gas palm imprints. The array below was constantly being destroyed, but the blood-colored poisonous gas was still surging. No matter how tyrannical the sword chi was, it was unable to destroy or disperse the poisonous gas. However, after the array was destroyed, Su Fong's palace was violently shaken. Fortunately, it was only on the verge of collapse. A large number of disciples exclaimed. They didn't think that a sky immortal disciple would be able to fight with a profound immortal disciple from the grand ancient Taoist rites. Moreover, he wasn't defeated. Chapter 1068. The remaining power of the sword chi was still terrifying. Just the remaining power was enough to surpass the heavenly immortal realm. This disciple of the vast ancient Taoist rite clearly wanted to kill Su Fong. But what he didn't expect was that the special blood-colored poisonous gas released by Su Fong was so unbearable. It had the terrifying ability to suppress the divine power and supernatural powers of the righteous path. It was as if the supernatural powers and true chi were swallowed by the poisonous gas the moment they entered. How can this kid control such a shocking poisonous gas at the heavenly immortal realm? It even has a little bit of demonic chi. It seems that the poisonous gas was created by combining various evil techniques. The disciple who attacked was embarrassed. He wanted to suppress Su Fong with one move to show the supreme divine power of the vast ancient Taoist rite disciples. But he didn't expect that his attack didn't have much effect. When he saw that Su Fong was still alive and kicking under the protection of the poisonous gas under the broken formation, he became even angrier. This was obviously to let everyone laugh at his incompetence. A profound, immortal, vast, ancient Taoist rite disciple couldn't take down a heavenly immortal realm disciple. Ouch! A scene that made him even angrier came one after another. Under the poisonous gas, Su Fong stood in front of the palace. He raised his head and looked at the sky with a mocking expression. Who said you want to punish me? This is my Huang Fu, Xiaoying's dojo. I have the right to protect it. Oomph. The disciple didn't say anything else. Suddenly, he changed his hand seal. A sizzling electric light started to run from his skin under his hand seal. After this rush, it actually transformed into a bolt of lightning that was more than 10 meters long in front of him. Divine power of lightning, damn it! Su Fong looked at it. Not to mention just the sound of the thunder made his scalp numb. It also made the countless disciples outside quiet down. Divine power of lightning. This disciple actually used such a terrifying technique. It was obvious that he wanted to kill Su Fong. Naturally, the most terrifying power that humans were familiar with was the heavenly lightning. The heavenly lightning represented the anger of heaven and earth. Human cultivators could also control the power of heaven and earth and borrow the power of the stars. In other words, human cultivators could control and guide the heavenly lightning for human use. Obviously, this disciple had learned a lightning-type technique in a vast ancient Taoist rite. Furthermore, he wanted to use it in order to teach a heavenly immortal disciple a lesson. Be careful. This disciple is using lightning-type divine might. Even though he just learned it, it's incomparably domineering. Your poison gas won't be able to stop such a domineering attack. At this moment, Law's voice came from the depths. Hearing Luo Zheng's words, Su Fong also frowned. Ever since I started cultivating, I've never cultivated a lightning-type cultivation technique. However, I know that he's the most powerful existence. It seems I'll have to use my magic treasure to block him this time. Luo Dao said, "This is Star Palace. Don't use too many abilities or magic weapons. Moreover, your goal was to increase your fame and let everyone know about you. You've already achieved your goal. After this incident, everyone in the core disciple camp in the dojo will know about you. All right, I'll use the Starlight Sword. A mid-grade Dharma treasure can block a Xian Immortal's attack. As long as I have a Dharma treasure that can neutralize most of the lightning energy, I won't need to fear him." At this moment, Su Fong's breathing stopped abruptly. He didn't expect his opponent to be so flustered that he would use a lightning-type cultivation technique. Moreover, outside the palace, because of the sudden explosion of the lightning-type divine might, it set off a formless, domineering aura that attracted more disciples from Huangfu Training Hall. Isn't that Xiaoying from Huangfu? Yeah, he's the first disciple to become the Eternal Star Sun in this competition. Didn't they say that he went to the treasured artifact secret territory? Many disciples from Huangfu Training Hall were discussing among themselves, scolding. However, at this moment, the disciple who was controlling the lightning-type divine might could no longer stop. He didn't care who Su Fong was. He only knew that he had to kill this brat to clear his name. Go! The lightning suddenly turned into a 10-zhong long, dazzling state. As if it had a life of its own, it charged towards the expert disciple. The lightning flashed and was so dazzling that countless disciples couldn't open their eyes. The sound of thunder made many disciples feel dizzy and unbearable. Starlight Sword. At this moment, Su Fong stepped forward and a starlight sword chi appeared in his hand. You don't know what's good for you. How dare you attack in my training hall? Just as the destructive lightning-type divine might was about to cause terrifying destruction in this small training hall, a woman's voice suddenly came from nothingness. Huangfu Fei. Su Fong hurriedly used the starlight sword to block in front of his chest. Then, he released his great perfection ability and looked. Two figures directly jumped over. The familiar figure was Huangfu Fei. She floated to the side and looked at the dazzling lightning. She gently pressed her palm, and the lightning obediently surged into her face. With a sizzling sound, it forcibly drilled into her palm and disappeared. As for the person beside her, it was a man. Before they could see the man clearly, the lightning suddenly disappeared. The tens of thousands of disciples in the palace were all dumbfounded. But suddenly, they couldn't hear the explosion of the lightning. When they opened their eyes and saw a man and a woman floating in the air, no one dared to speak loudly. Senior Huang Fu Fei, the disciple from the great ancient training hall, was like a mouse that saw a cat. He shivered and broke out in cold sweat. Just by looking at Huang Fu Fei, he was so scared that his legs were shivering. Huang Fu Fei was furious. How many years have I left the great ancient training hall? After becoming a special disciple, I haven't returned to the great ancient training hall. Don't you know what happened to me? We are wrong. The other 3 disciples from the great ancient training hall hurriedly went forward and only did one thing, which was to admit their mistake. Before Huang Fu Fei could speak, the man beside her said casually, "Junior, how can we make you angry? I will do it for you." "Master." When the 4 of them heard, they were afraid of Huang Fu Fei before. Now that they heard the man speak, they were extremely scared. They were so scared that they knelt down directly. "This person is Yun Lu." "Who is this person?" They didn't expect this man to have such a status. Su Fong immediately communicated with Yun Lu secretly. Yun Lu was frightened and replied uneasily, "You don't even know him? Are you blind?" This is one of the most outstanding geniuses among the special disciples of the Star Palace. His name is Cho Yun. Cho Yun, I heard that among the special disciples, there is someone called Li Tianqi. How about this person? Su Fong asked again. You know Li Tianqi, but not Cho Yun. He, Cho Yun and Li Tianqi are the most outstanding disciples among the special disciples of the Star Palace. There's also our Missy. Our Missy is not even comparable to these male disciples. Hence, in the Star Palace, if these special disciples kill other disciples, they will die in vain. Of course, the special disciples will not kill the core disciples easily. However, they will still teach them a lesson, heavily injure them, or even destroy their cultivation. No wonder everyone is afraid. Now, they knew who the man was. Cho Yun. He was the same existence as Nangong Xiao and Mu Shua's backer, Li Tianqi. It is too late to admit your mistake now. After Cho Yun finished speaking, he didn't move at all. He only gave a glance. Path for expert disciples from the great ancient Taoist sect trembled when they were kneeling down. Blood spurted out from their skin, and they instantly became bloody and heavily injured. Cho Yun then laughed coldly. Get lost. Thank you, Senior. After the 4 disciples were taught a lesson, they still pretended to be obedient. They hurriedly supported each other and left the place. Swoosh, swoosh. In a short while, in front of the palace, Huang Fu Fei brought Cho Yun to Su Fong. At that moment, Su Fong finally saw Cho Yun's appearance clearly. He was definitely a handsome man with a strong body and an elegant appearance. Huang Fu Shaoing, how dare you? Do you think you can disregard the sect's rules after going to the treasured artifact, Secret Realm? Su Fong was completely unprepared for Huang Fu Fei's attack, but he didn't expect Huang Fu Shaoing to be so bold. He didn't expect Huang Fu Fei's expression to change faster than the weather. Furthermore, the current Huang Fu Fei was also the young miss he wasn't familiar with. He hurriedly admitted his mistake. Disciple was wrong. Disciple was only protecting the Taoist sect. This is also the young Miss Taoist sect. How can I tolerate other disciples breaking the rules? Every place has its rules. I'm a master here. Protecting the Taoist sect is also my business. What does it have to do with you? Disciple was wrong. It's good that you know your mistake. But I want to tell everyone, and also warn other disciples, that they must understand whose Taoist sect this is. They must also know that the rules are strict. Disciple is willing to accept the punishment. Remember whose Taoist sect this is in the future. Who is the one who keeps his word? As a disciple, you should properly do your duty and properly learn the art of refining. Yes. Crack. Papa Su Fong repeatedly admitted his mistake. Huang Fu Fei suddenly flicked his fingers at his legs. After this flick, the bones in Su Fong's legs were unexpectedly fractured in an instant. Huang Fu Fei and Cho Yun didn't even look at him and stepped into the main hall. Then, Su Fong's legs were no longer fractured. Instead, a dull explosion occurred from the inside. Waves of blood seeped out from his skin. All the bones in his legs were shattered. No longer able to support his body tilted and Su Fong fell. Fortunately, he was close to the door and just happened to fall to the side of the door. His legs were already bloody and dripping with blood. Yin Lu passed by with her maids at this moment. However, she didn't dare to stop and didn't dare to make sound. Su Fong looked at the front of the palace again. Many disciples were leaving, but even more disciples were sneering at him, laughing at him. Huang Fufei, Su Fong, will take back all the humiliation I've suffered in my life. Just you wait. Su Fong, will definitely find you and make you pay for today's humiliation. He fiercely raised the side of the door. His legs were in pain and numbness. He had already lost all feeling. It was as if he would never have his legs again. Regardless of the gazes of the disciples, after circulating his qi, he slowly flew to the other side of the room. He closed the door and immediately swallowed the medicinal pills. At this moment, his self-esteem was severely tortured. This was the first time he suffered such humiliation in his life. Little brother, let's go and destroy that Huang Fu bitch. Deep inside the crucible transformation realm, Bai Ling shed tears and flapped his wings to leave the crucible transformation realm. The undying turtle, green feather king, Zhu Huang, Wooling Goblin, and the others were unhappy at this time. None of them wanted to go out and take Huang Fufei's head. But from the beginning to the end, Su Fong did not say a word. He just let the power of the medicinal pills sweep through his body and continue to recover. At this time, with his great perfection ability, he could clearly hear the cold and aloof disciple, Cho Yun's voice coming from the other side of the main hall. Senior apprentice Sister Xuanxin, I have admired you for many years. When I learned that senior apprentice brother Yin Sanshin was pursuing you, I gave up. Now, senior apprentice sister is alone and looking for a Tao companion to break through the bottleneck. I, Cho Yun, have known senior apprentice sister for many years. Although my strength is not as good as senior apprentice sister's, I believe that I can still help senior apprentice sister in terms of cultivation. Senior apprentice sister, Cho Yun wanted to see you, so I brought him here. I hope you don't blame me. Of course, the other special disciples will come here to visit you later. Huang Fufei also added. As for Xuanxin Fairy, she calmly replied, Junior brother Chao's talent is amazing, and he has caught up with me. His strength is not much different from mine, and with such a handsome face, he will definitely be a real dragon in the future. Chapter 1069. When she said this, Cho Yin could only chuckle a few times. Clearly, Fairy Xuanxin had made it very clear that she did not have any feelings for Cho Yin. She had also tactfully rejected this person. Huang Fufei then invited Fairy Xuanxin to her dojo so that she would not be disturbed. However, Fairy Xuanxin still decided to stay here. After the two of them left, Huang Fufei personally left behind a formation to protect the palace. Even if there were a large number of spectating disciples outside, they would not be able to casually take a step into the formation. With this, Su Fong could finally have some peace. He then continuously swallowed pills. Back then, when Huang Fufei planted a seal on my legs, I knew that this woman only treated me as a servant. However, you were gravely mistaken. You thought that I, Su Fong, would forever be suppressed by you and used by you. Looking at his legs that had turned blood red, his injuries seemed serious, and his legs were even crippled. However, in reality, to Su Fong, it was not serious at all. If he wanted to recover, it would only take a few days. However, he could not recover too quickly. Once Huang Fufei found out, his secret would be even harder to hide. When Huang Fufei no longer had any secrets, that would be when he would truly die in the hands of that woman. This time, Huang Fufei completely treated him as a servant in front of Cho Yun and countless other disciples, and publicly suffered such humiliation. This also proved that Huang Fufei and him would always have this kind of hostile relationship. I won't disturb you. Suddenly, Su Fong, who was in the midst of recovery, felt that his injuries were more or less healed. A woman's voice, as quiet as an ancient mirror, came from outside. It was Fairy Xuanxin. Su Fong was startled. He did not expect that the #1 fairy would suddenly come to his room to find him. After adjusting his state, He responded and released his true chi to open the door. Fairy Xuanxin, who was dressed in a green robe, walked into the room with silent steps. When she saw Su Fong sitting cross-legged on the bed with some blood around him, she nodded and sat in front of the window. Su Fong did not get down from the bed. After waiting for a while, he felt that it was too quiet and unnatural. He took the initiative and said, "Fairy, there are many disciples outside. Star Palace is like this. A fairy like you will be treated like a star by everyone. With my current cultivation, I can roughly guess what these disciples are thinking and saying." Fairy Xuanxin cast a deep gaze from his side. "I want to thank you." The latter raised his eyebrows. "I don't understand. Those disciples came to disturb me and insisted on seeing me. You stood up and stopped them. How can I not thank you? I've seen too many men in this world. Before they reach their goals, they will work hard and they will fight hard. But once they reach their goals and they have their dreams, they will no longer cherish them. How could I not understand what those disciples were thinking when they came to see me? You might have said that you stopped them for the sake of the Taoist, right? But in truth, you couldn't stand what they were doing to me. I just feel that you are a guest. Since you are a guest from afar, these disciples are too much. I'm not the only one who could not stand it. But you're the only one who stood out. Yes, recuperate well. After you recuperate, be my tour guide and accompany me around the dojo of Star Palace. It is rare for you to come here. Maybe you won't have another chance in the future. That is what I should do. I will not disturb you." Fairy Xuanxin stood up and walked to the door. She suddenly turned around. "I wanted to give you a few extraordinary elixirs to help you recuperate, but I unintentionally felt that your vitality is very strong. The injuries on your legs should not be a problem for you. You're also a cultivator who is unwilling to be mediocre." Hearing those words, Fairy Xuanxin turned to look, only to see the back of her silhouette. Su Fong was speechless. She was a peerless expert who had surpassed the mystic immortal realm. She was indeed extraordinary. After recuperating for a while, he continued to consume elixirs. His legs quickly recovered. Unexpectedly, another person came to the palace. It was not an outsider. It was one of the owners here, Baby Huangfu. Seeing Su Fong sitting on the bed like a cripple, Baby Huangfu was unconvinced and asked, "Big sister is too much. Why did she have to do this? With her ability, cultivation, and status, she could have taught those disciples a lesson as a special disciple. Why did she almost cripple your legs?" "Huangfu Fei, it is fortunate that you have a younger brother. Because of this, I will not deal with your younger brother in the future. If there is a grudge, I will only seek revenge from you. Also, Huangfu Yunhai, I will strip you of your treasures." After staring for a while, Su Fong did not vent his anger on Baby Huangfu. Baby Huangfu took out a storage ring. "There are many elixirs here. Have a good rest. I was also cultivating in the great ancient Taoist rite. I only found out about this after hearing some disciples' discussions. If I had come back earlier, this would not have happened. Young master, don't worry. I am fine. You know that my physical body is extraordinary. My vitality is extraordinary. This kind of injury is not a problem for me. I will go and find Big Sister." Unexpectedly, Baby Huangfu turned around and left the room angrily. No one could stop him. Deep in the abyss, deep in the clouds, Baby Huangfu passed through the formation and arrived at the back garden. When he saw Huangfu Fei, he was about to throw a tantrum. However, when he saw that there was a male disciple beside her, he suppressed his anger and stepped forward. Huangfu Fei and the male disciple looked at Baby Huangfu at the same time. "Why did you come back from the great ancient Taoist rite? Didn't I tell you to work hard on your cultivation? When the time comes, there will be a joint training held by several large factions. It will be the best chance for you to make a name for yourself. Greetings, senior apprentice Brother Yun." The male disciple was the special disciple who went to see Fairy Xuanxin, Cho Yun. Baby Huangfu gritted his teeth angrily, but he still bowed to Cho Yun. He knew the rules. Cho Yun smiled and did not say anything. Baby Huangfu suppressed his anger for a while and humped softly. "I heard that Huangfu Xiaoying was injured, so I rushed back to take a look." Huangfu Fei's face darkened. In front of Cho Yun, she shouted coldly, "I knew you came for him. How many times have I told you? Huangfu Xiaoying, is just a disciple with a different surname. He is just a servant who has some extraordinary talent. No matter what, he is just a servant. You cannot have any other thoughts. Remember what I said. As your elder sister, I am doing this for your own good. Go back. Elder sister. Baby Huangfu was still unconvinced. However, after a while, he turned around and left. As for the remaining two people, Cho Yun comforted, he is still a child. Junior sister, don't take it to heart. Young master's talent is astonishing. As long as he is given time, the future of Star Palace will be his. Huangfu Fei said apologetically, Brother Yun, I originally wanted to connect you with Fairy Xuanxin. However, I did not expect that Fairy Xuanxin would not be moved. The matter of duo cultivation this time was started by the elders of the two big sections. Any male disciple who can duo cultivation with Fairy Xuanxin will definitely be put in an important position by the two big sects in the future and will have an extraordinary status. Cho Yun looked like he did not care. However, he was probably angry about this matter for a long time. I also understand. That is why I am shamelessly looking for junior sister. However, I reckon that Fairy Xuanxin has set her eyes on someone else. Or perhaps she still has Yin Sunxin in her heart. However, I heard that the other special disciples will all go and see Fairy Xuanxin. Even Li Tianqi will go. Yin Xinxin is truly extraordinary. A while ago, I heard that the fire-overflowing divine sun sect had gone to a certain ancient era's outer space-time. To the outside world, it was said that they were bringing their disciples there to train. However, the truth was that they had obtained some sort of ancient era's incomplete map and had gone there to search for a certain treasure. I heard that they had even obtained that treasure. Furthermore, in the end, that treasure ended up in Yin Xinxin's hands. As such, Yin Xinxin became the #1 disciple of the fire-overflowing divine sun sect. First disciple. I have been secretly paying attention to Yin Xinxin's recent movements. After all, our batch of genius disciples are all fighting openly and secretly. To be able to become Tao companions with Fairy Xuanxin, that man will be able to enjoy the resources of the two major sections. In addition, we will also form an alliance with the Clear Skies Thousand Scrolls door. I am not that kind of person like Yin Sunxin, who will do anything to achieve his goals. I reckon that the men in the dojo will not be able to catch her eye. I understand Xuanxin too well. As a woman, she wants to find the most dazzling man in the world to be her Tao companion. Unfortunately, because of Yin Sunxin, it is difficult for her to find such a man. Senior brother, don't mind it too much. It was Huangfu Fei who comforted Cho Yun in the end. They were both special disciples. How could the relationship between the two of them form a shocking force in the constellation of 9 heavens? Side peek. In the palace, because of Huangfu Fei's powerful methods, the surrounding disciples did not dare to casually barge into the array formation. However, because of the commotion last time, there were even more disciples who came to the palace to watch the show. Su Fong had already recovered from her injuries. Furthermore, she was breaking through to the peak of the second Tao Heaven Immortal Realm. Buzz. After half a month of silence, suddenly, there was a shocking sound coming from the array formation. Then, Yin Lu's polite greeting was heard. Greetings, young Master Li. Young Master Li. Su Fong immediately used his great perfection stage ability to see through the doors and windows. The first face he saw surprised him. It turned out to be Mu Shuo, a high-level disciple of the precious artifact Mystic Realm. Other than Mu Shuo, there were dozens of people. Almost all of them were disciples of the Grand Ancient Dojo and other mystic realms. Nangong Xiao. Among them, there were a few disciples in the Heaven Immortal Realm who followed behind Mu Shuo. One of them attracted Su Fong's attention immediately. It was the genius he met in the 10,000-year competition, Nangong Xiao. However, these people walked with big steps, as if they were walking on flat ground. They knew that this was a barrier cast by Huangfu Fei, but they still looked arrogant. It was because there was a man among them. He was a tall man with a particularly strong figure. This person was wearing a distinctive yellow star robe. His face looked as if it was carved with a knife, and his facial features were distinct. This person's domineering aura caused the array formation left behind by Huangfu Fei to tremble. What a peerless expert. He clearly didn't care about Huangfu Fei's aura. His surname was Li, and he was supported by Mu Shuo, Nangong Xiao, and many other genius disciples. This person was naturally a special disciple, Li Tianqi. Li Tianqi remembered Li Tianqi's appearance and secretly stayed in his room. This wasn't the time to go out. If Nangong Xiao, Mu Shuo, and the others wanted to make things difficult for him, even 100 lives wouldn't be enough. Li Tianqi directly asked everyone to wait in the main hall. He went to the depths of the palace. Su Fang used his great perfection stage ability to hear his polite greeting. I'm Li Tianqi. Ever since we parted a few years ago, I've always wanted to visit Fairy Xuanqin at the Clear Skies Thousand Scrolls Gate. Junior brother Li, in the blink of an eye, you've become a famous person in the dojo. Please come in. Unexpectedly, Fairy Xuanqin removed the barrier and let Li Tianqi in. Su Fang wasn't surprised. After all, they were all special disciples. Other disciples didn't have to give face, but since they knew each other and were both special disciples, they definitely had to meet. After listening carefully, it turned out that Li Tianqi didn't just come to greet Fairy Xuanqin. He also expressed his admiration for her. However, Fairy Xuanqin didn't seem to be moved. She didn't reject him directly, but she didn't accept him either. One is the #1 fairy. The other is a genius from Star Palace. They're really a match made in heaven. However, Fairy Xuanqin's standards are too high. First, she looked down on Chou Yun, then Li Tianqi. After about half an hour, Li Tianqi left. It wasn't clear whether he was angry or not. Under the protection of a group of underlings, he left in public under the gaze of countless disciples. Chapter 1070. After Li Tianqi left, not only did Fairy Xuanqin relax, Su Fang also returned to normal. Wherever this kind of special disciple went, they would be as dazzling as the sun. Luckily, there were no accidents this time, or else the situation would be difficult to clean up. Now, other than special disciples who could enter, the core disciples of the other dojos did not dare to take a step into the dojo. With Huangfu Fei publicly angry, who would dare to take the blame? After a few days of silence, Fairy Xuanqin said that she wanted to go out and take a look at the Star Palace dojos. Naturally, Su Fang had to accompany her. After Su Fang was ready, he took advantage of the fact that the disciples outside the palace were not paying attention and escaped from the formation behind the palace. As for the formation in front, it was still controlled by Yin Lu. After leaving the side peak of Huangfu, Su Fang and Fairy Xuanqin went to the clouds of the 9th heaven. The two of them stepped on the clouds and looked down at the entire Huangfu dojo. Su Fang asked, Fairy, what do you want to see? There are 9 dojos in the Star Palace: Huangfu Peak, Ao Tian Peak, Wasian Valley, Tian Yin Cave, Bodhi Spiritual World, Ruoxue Spiritual Land, Xing Yuan World, and Xian Pavilion, Xing Hua Spiritual Sky. Fairy Xuanqin's entire body was above the flowing clouds. Her mortal aura was above the dojo. Her spiritual eyes moved. Just take a look around. Every dojo is similar. However, the Star Palace is indeed extraordinary. The dojo is filled with the essence of the world. This is something that our dojos cannot compare to. From what I know about the Green Sky Thousand Scrolls door, your dojo has many shocking techniques. There are at least 10,000 types. There are many techniques, but there are also disadvantages. It's better to specialize in the 9 heaven stars small phase art. Luckily, when you reach the final peak, all techniques return to the origin. If I have a pair of eyes, I can combine the 10,000 techniques and comprehend one technique. Then, I can specialize in one technique. I didn't expect your sex disciples to be able to create their own techniques. It's not that I created it myself. It's just that it's based on the countless cultivation methods that I've cultivated. It's just a general cultivation method. Just like that, the two of them slowly floated past Huangfu Taoist Hall, riding the clouds as they advanced. Fairy Xuanqin did not display her peerless aura, and Su Fang also concealed her true qi. The two of them were like ordinary disciples browsing the Taoist Hall. He also took the opportunity to learn more about the clear sky 10,000 scrolls door from the fairy. This was a great opportunity. After all, they were all first-rate factions of the great world. In the future, they would definitely have connections. About half a day later, a towering mountain suddenly appeared in front of them. Fairy Xuanxin looked over in surprise. That's Proud Heaven Peak, right? Elder Proud Heaven Changhen's name is known by everyone in the outside world. Elder Ao Tian was punished for 100,000 years before coming out of seclusion. Ao Tian Peak only has 2 senior disciples. That's what makes our sect different. Hen Buhui, Jun, you don't see. Fairy, you know her too? Of course I know her. They are both special disciples. Furthermore, they're the strongest special disciples in Star Palace. Sister Buhui and junior brother Changming have ordinary aptitudes. They have already surpassed most of the disciples. To be able to follow Elder Ao Tian Changhen, these 2 special disciples will definitely become peerless experts. You're right. It seemed that Su Fang's silence and unique aura made Fairy Xuanxin open her mouth. If every cultivator doesn't meet a talent scout, it's almost impossible for them to grow. Every cultivator I know is like that. I heard that Elder Ao Tian Changhen's identity is also very unusual. Su Fang frowned in bewilderment. Not ordinary. I heard from some elders in our sect talking about Star Palace. They said that Elder Ao Tian is probably related to some factions of the ancient human race, especially the surname Ao Tian. There are records in some ancient books. In ancient times, there was a human clan called Ao Tian. They were once extremely strong, but unfortunately, they withered away. It's rumored that Elder Ao Tian is a descendant of the Ao Tian clan. Of course, it's not true. After Fairy Xuanxin finished speaking, Su Fang didn't react. Whoosh! Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking could be heard. After sensing it, he turned around and saw that Fairy Xuanxin was also moving. She was very calm, as if she already knew who was about to arrive. Fairy, it's been many years. Come and have a seat at my place. Between the clouds, the surroundings were vast and boundless. Suddenly, a man in a star robe stepped through the clouds. With another step, he arrived in front of Fairy Xuanxin. He bowed politely and cupped his fist. Another special disciple. With a glance, Su Fang had never seen this special disciple before. His star robe was covered with star Tao patterns. Regardless of his aura or divine might, he was on par with peerless disciples like Huang Fufei, Chou Yun, and Li Tianqi. He was also an unusual disciple. The disciple took another look at Su Fang, then flew forward slowly with Fairy Xuanxin. Su Fang followed behind alone. After hearing the 2 of them chatting for a while, he found out that the disciple's name was Tong Yu. He was one of the most popular disciples in Star Palace. There were too many disciples like Tong Yu, and he couldn't feel how strong Tong Yu was. It was like a small stream facing a big river. Suddenly, Tong Yu's urgent voice entered Su Fang's ears. Fairy, Tong Yu, am very straightforward and I know my place. Although I'm not as good as Yin Sin Shin, I'm infatuated with you and have admired you for a long time. If I'm lucky enough to become your companion, I swear that I'll protect you with my life. Then, Fairy Xuanxin answered decisively. Junior, I'm very touched by your kindness. However, some things depend on fate. If fate hasn't arrived, it means that we're not suitable for each other. That's true. Fate is wonderful. I'm too impatient. I believe that one day, I'll make you smile. Thank you for your understanding. After about an hour, Tong Yu bade farewell and left. Regardless of his tone or his actions, he was very upset. If it were any other man, he would be resentful after being rejected by a lady. Su Fang then came to Fairy Xuanxin's side and led her to take a look at the other training halls. During this period of time, Fairy Xuanxin didn't say a word. It was obvious that she was upset because of the duo cultivation. However, just as they were about to return to Huangfu Training Hall, there were 2 special wind-breaking noises that flew towards them. 2 people. Su Fang heard the noise and used his perfect vision to look. There was a disciple behind them. The one who flew over was a young man in a starry robe who looked to be around 25 years old. He passed through the clouds and saw Fairy Xuanxin. He cupped his fists. I'm Lien Changxian. I'm here to see you. Greetings, Junior. Fairy Xuanxin wasn't surprised. Instead, when she saw Lien Changxian flying over, she secretly noticed that Su Fang's gaze was different from usual. With that glance, she welcomed Lien Changxian. I heard that there are many new special disciples in Star Palace. Junior Changxian is the most talented one. In Wanwan's sect, many disciples are talking about how extraordinary you are. I'm just a new disciple. Naturally, I can't compare to other seniors. I've been admiring you for a long time. I hope that one day, I'll have the chance to have a long talk with you or go on an adventure in a dangerous place. With your cultivation, you'll definitely be able to help me break through the obstacles. I'm too polite. If Senior Apprentice Sister has the time, please come to my training ground. I'm a little tired today. I like to go back and rest. I'll repay your kindness in the future. Goodbye. In front of Lien Changxian, Fairy Xuanxin didn't stand on ceremony. After rejecting him, she signaled Su Fang to bring her forward slowly. When the two of them disappeared, another special disciple flew out from behind Lien Changxian. He was also young. The young disciple patted Lien Changxian's shoulder. Junior, don't even think about it. I heard that Fairy Xuanxin was played by Yin Sanxin a long time ago. Don't talk nonsense. How can the #1 fairy be as dirty as you think? Hearing that, Lien Changxin's face turned red. He wanted to fall out with the young man. She's not as dirty as I think. Isn't it normal for a man and a woman to have sex when they're together? Brother Lien, you're known as a special genius disciple. There are many good women in the world. Why do you have to find a broken shoe? She's not a broken shoe. If she's not a broken shoe, then what is she? Everyone in the big world knows that Yin Sunxin pursued Fairy Xuanxin back then and played with her countless times. Isn't his body clean? It's normal for a man and a woman to have sex. Stop talking. I'm doing this for your own good. You have a bright future ahead of you. Don't waste your time on a woman like her. If she's willing, you could just be a prostitute and have fun for a while. Once you're strong enough, you can choose any woman in the world. Let's go. Don't blame me for being straightforward. That's the truth. I'm doing this for your own good. That kind of woman doesn't deserve you. If you become her Tao companion, everyone will say that you're picking up a broken shoe. Lien Changxian and the young disciple turned and flew away. They were still talking nonstop. Lien Changxian's face turned pale and dark. He was not happy at all. Puff. One li away, above the clouds in the sky, Su Fang was bringing Fairy Xuanxin through the clouds. They were about to fly to Huangfu's dojo not far ahead. Unexpectedly, Fairy Xuanxin's body suddenly trembled. She could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Her blood scattered in the air and dyed the clouds red. Senior Sister. Su Fang released his aura and protected Fairy Xuanxin. Fairy Xuanxin forced herself to say one word. However, her body tilted again and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Senior Sister, don't listen to the nonsense of those disciples. Gossip is a fearful thing. Often, the most powerful thing in this world is not the divine weapon, but the words of others. It can't be seen or touched. Su Fang released an even stronger aura to support Fairy Xuanxin. He hurriedly comforted her. If you listen to them, you will definitely encounter a bottleneck. At this moment, Fairy Xuanxin wanted to say something. However, her blood was clotted. After struggling for a while, she hurriedly circulated her qi and swallowed an immortal pill. She suddenly looked at Su Fang in surprise. You can actually hear what they're saying. You heard everything. His heart skipped a beat. That's right. In a moment of carelessness, he forgot that he had this ability. Moreover, it was an ability that outsiders could not know about. He did not know how to answer. Fairy Xuanxin could finally control her aura. However, it was still very weak. I didn't expect a heaven immortal disciple like you to have this kind of heavenly hearing ability. I also cultivated for many years. Moreover, I obtained an ancient scroll by accident. That's how I cultivated this ability. Without a certain level of cultivation, I can't control heavenly hearing. Oh yes, I also obtained an incomplete technique by accident. I cultivated this ability. However, I can only hear about 1 li away. Moreover, if it's too soft, I can't hear it either. Heavenly hearing he did not know. However, since he had this kind of heavenly hearing cultivation technique, he could hide the fact that he had perfected his ability. Chapter 1071. The heavenly hearing technique is an ability that combines the physical body with a divine ability. Heavenly hearing and earthly hearing are both not easy to cultivate. You are very unusual. Fairy Xuanxin stared at Su Fong again, as if she wanted to see through this seemingly weak, heavenly, immortal realm cultivator. Su Fong could only evade her words and avoid her divine aura. Fairy Xuanxin could not help but tremble again, and her face turned pale again. You heard what they said? No, I didn't hear it. Knowing why Fairy Xuanxin was stuck at a bottleneck and why she was easily injured, Su Fong naturally pretended to be ignorant. You didn't hear it? It seems that no man in this world is worthy of trust. Senior sister, I heard some, but I don't think it's a big deal. Everyone has a past, and everyone has a past. Why do we always have to cross that threshold? You are not a woman. You have never been deceived by your loved ones. You don't know that kind of deception, that kind of heart-wrenching pain, you don't know. We are all cultivators, but why is it that in this world, men are not affected when they're injured, but why is it that when a woman is injured, it is a matter of a lifetime? Senior sister, let's go back. Men in this world. Fairy Xuanxin seemed to treat Su Fong as a sinner, venting her anger in front of him. It was only when Su Fong kept silent that she finally calmed down. She trembled a few times, exuding coldness. She swayed with each step, as if she was about to faint at any time. Su Fong silently followed behind. After waiting for a while, he saw that Fairy Xuanxin had recovered. Not long after, she followed him back to the palace. Su Fong sat down cross-legged. He would cultivate for a long time. Fairy Xuanxin's words made him recall the various encounters he had with Xiao Mei-er in the small world. After resting for half the night, he began to consume pills and continue to break through to the peak of the second Tao realm. In the following days, every month or so, a special disciple would come to visit Fairy Xuanxin. However, the outcome was the same as before. They were all politely rejected by Fairy Xuanxin. Su Fong also began to step into the peak of the second Tao realm. If not for Fairy Xuanxin, he would have broken through much earlier. It had been brewing for a year. On this day, Su Fong's room suddenly shot out a burst of tribulation chi. The tribulation chi rumbled like thunder and then turned into burning flames. The familiar promotion power began to form a momentum of impact again and again. Su Fong tried his best to suppress all the momentum, but the tribulation fire and the breakthrough momentum still continued fiercely. When he thought of the fact that there was a peerless expert beside him, he reckoned that he would not be able to suppress the commotion caused by his breakthrough. The other party had the ability of Tianting. Quite a lot of impurities had accumulated in the placenta. It was only when the force of advancement became smaller and smaller that the impurities in the placenta disappeared. Su Fong swallowed another pill. At this moment, his body had already begun to transform. From the second Tao heavenly immortal realm to the third Tao heavenly immortal realm, he had broken through another level. Of course, the reason why Su Fong was able to achieve such a shocking breakthrough in the celestial immortal realm had a lot to do with the various cultivation techniques and resources that he had cultivated. After swallowing the elixir, he began to observe the changes in his body. In the divine aperture and dantian, there were 3 Tao marks. The third Tao heavenly immortal realm. The Tao marks covered the flesh membrane, inside and outside the divine aperture, around the golden core origin, and even in some meridians. The divine might from the laws of heaven and earth was engraved in the human body and would never disappear. Human cultivators would also follow the engraving of the Tao marks and cultivate to the peak. He was not in the mood to pay attention to the movements in the palace. As for Fairy Xuanxin, she would not leave this place. Su Fong could cultivate in peace and increase his strength. He thought of the fastest way to increase his strength, and that was to cultivate the yellow spring blood sea. However, If he cultivated the yellow spring blood sea at this time, countless people would see him transforming into a cauldron. After thinking about it, he activated the ability of his blood transformation true body and swallowed the elixir wantonly. He even opened a bloody wound on his chest and directly injected a superior grade immortal essence pill. Coupled with his physical cultivation technique, his strength crazily increased. When he used the 9 true 9 yang and ethereal true explanation, he could absorb the surrounding spirit chi of heaven and earth at an astonishing speed and pour it into his body, bringing astonishing energy to his body. Especially in the depths of his body, the yin-yang Tao wheel formed by the 18 yang meridians was also operating crazily. Not only did it absorb the spirit chi that surged in his body, but it also turned into yang, chi, quintessential chi, and finally poured into the world fragment. When he looked at the world fragment again, there were still 5 rings of starlight around it. This represented the 5 small worlds that Su Fong had fused when he cultivated in the small worlds. The world fragment's speed of circulation was a little faster, but it was not too obvious. However, every time the world fragment sped up a little, overall, the fusion of the world fragment and Su Fong became more and more compatible. In addition, the yin-yang Tao wheel formed by the 18 yang meridians was operating perfectly. These changes were expected. Su Fong was most concerned about his right arm. What was in his right arm? Of course, it was the purple chi dharma spirit. When he broke through to the 3 Tao, sky mortal realm, he looked at his right arm again. The countless meridians in his right arm were surging with the special purple spirit chi of the purple chi dharma spirit. This purple spirit chi was a type of quintessential chi, and it was also quintessential chi. If it was the power of a dharma treasure, it was also the power of a dharma treasure. The purple chi dharma spirit was between a numinous treasure, a dharma treasure, and a power. It could be called a dharma treasure or a numinous treasure, but it could also be called a power. This power was born from absorbing countless great fertility purple chi and all kinds of purple chi. According to Luo, the purple chi dharma spirit was actually a kind of luck. It represented great luck. Therefore, the final power of the purple chi dharma spirit should be the most illusory luck. There were countless meridians in his right arm, and most of them were surging with the purple chi dharma spirit's purple chi. It had already reached his right arm and was about to enter his body through his arm. His left arm was made of dragon-subduing wood, which had amazing wood-type divine power. His right arm had the purple chi dharma spirit, which had turned into a whole purple chi. In addition, he had fused with the Xianhuang 6 Paths Pagoda as his natal dharma treasure. The current Su Fong could already be called monster. Even a special disciple did not have as many special abilities as him. The high-grade immortal essence pill that he had swallowed in his chest was very powerful and ferocious. It was like a wild horse galloping uncontrollably. Fortunately, his body was extraordinary. In the end, Su Fong devoured its power bit by bit. Chou Yun, Li Qianqi, Tong Yu, Lin Chongxian, Huang Fufei. After a long time, Su Fong seemed to have transformed into a different person. His gaze was sharp, and his aura was shocking. Suddenly, his expression froze. Each and every special disciple is a heavenly genius. I will gradually catch up to you. In the following days, I will constantly become stronger. When I obtain the Yellow Springs Devil Emperor's Bottomanda, or the 3rd part of the Purple Chi Dharma Spirit, it will be the time to step on your heads. Let alone you. Even those elders will not be able to make things difficult for me. After more than a year of cultivation, his strength had reached a certain level in the 3 Daos of the Sky Immortal Realm. Su Fong no longer swallowed pills ferociously. Although pills were powerful, this kind of cultivation, swallowing pills without restraint, was equivalent to a fierce nourishment. This also had a certain burden on the body. After settling down for a long time, Su Fong began to take out more pills. He gave them to countless junior commanders, monster immortals, and Big Goblin. He also gave a lot of pills to Gui Gui and Gorb demons. As Su Fong's realm improved, he also took out some materials. With the help of the cauldron transformation power, he quickly refined them into liquid. In the depths of the Cauldron Transformation world, he improved the quality of the Xianwang Six Paths Pagoda, Starry Daylight Sword, and Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd. He also secretly fused the Heavenly Devil Bloodplate and the Heartless Sword Spy. Of course, he also needed to continue fusing the Void Dust Cauldron and the Snake Spirit Immortal Swallowing Cauldron. The Heavenly Devil Bloodplate was a peerless existence that surpassed the high-grade Dao artifact. If Su Fong was not a devil cultivator and had an amazing young immortal, he would not be able to fuse with this powerful high-grade Dao artifact. But on this day, several people with strength that was more powerful than the special disciples suddenly came. He secretly checked and found out that these people were envoys sent by the elders. They formally invited Fairy Xuanxin to meet the higher-ups. This had nothing to do with Su Fong. Fairy Xuanxin openly left the palace, which also attracted the souls of the surrounding disciples, causing the palace to suddenly quiet down. It just so happened that Su Fong could enter the Void Dust Cauldron and cultivate the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. Without saying anything, he entered the Cauldron Transformation world. After his body transformed into the state of the Yellow Spring Blood Sea, he began to let his blood-water body devour a large number of medicinal pills. However, he only devoured hundreds of middle-grade immortal pills or a few high-grade immortal pills each time. Among the large number of spiritual objects obtained from the 100 Virtues ancient Devil Dao grounds, he also found many spiritual objects that contained special, fleshly body abilities. He also put them into his blood-water body to cultivate the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. However, after cultivating for a short time, Fairy Xuanxin returned, attracting many disciples. He could only give up. Coincidentally, Huang Fufei came to the palace. It turned out that she had gathered many special disciples and held a gathering in her Dao ground to formally invite Fairy Xuanxin. Fairy Xuanxin didn't reject. This time, it had nothing to do with Su Fong. After they left, she took the opportunity to cultivate the Yellow Spring Blood Sea again. Special disciples gathering, it was naturally a once-in-a-thousand-years event. However, this had nothing to do with Su Fong. His focus was on cultivation, and he didn't want to be involved in other matters. After another half a year, Fairy Xuanxin returned. She came to look for Su Fong and said that she would leave the Star Palace soon. Su Fong asked curiously and found out that Fairy Xuanxin had made a wasted trip. She didn't take a fancy to any of the special disciples. However, she didn't officially reject the special disciples either. In general, it was still possible for the Star Palace to have special disciples. He also found out that Fairy Xuanxin would be going to Huangze Astral to meet her senior. Some of the special disciples of the Star Palace would be going too. It seemed to be very lively. Su Fong also heard from Yun Lu that the special disciples were going to Huangze Astral for training and to find the whereabouts of the big goblin Dai Yi. It was said that Dai Yi couldn't kill many disciples of the Star Palace. Moreover, it was probably related to the training that was going to be held by a few powerhouses. The special disciples represented the Star Palace. Su Fong didn't have the right to know too much about it. When Fairy Xuanxin left, she especially thanked Su Fong. Then, she followed Huang Fufei to send her off from the Star Palace's Dao ground. Senior Dai Yi is in trouble. She is much stronger than the elders of the Star Palace. I have to send her a message secretly. After returning to the Treasure Mystery Land alone and cultivating for half a year and absorbing a lot of great pregnant purple qi, Su Fong couldn't let go of one thing. It was Dai Yi, especially when he knew that many special disciples were going for her. Su Fong couldn't sit still anymore. He left the Star Palace's Dao ground alone and immediately took out a talisman. He sent Voice of Primordial Spirit to Dai Yi. But this time, after waiting for a month, there was no response from Dai Yi. With her cultivation, she should be able to sense it in a few days. Why was there no response after a month? Thinking about the merciless sword spy and the few times Dai Yi helped him, such as giving him exceptional powers like Gorilla and Tung Ba, he was even more worried about Dai Yi. Of course. Also, he wanted to have a good relationship with a big goblin like Dai Yi. In the future, he would have the support of an expert secretly. He couldn't sit still anymore. He left the Star Palace alone and went to Huangze Astral again. In less than a year, Tiantis City. Su Fong returned to Tiantis City, which he was very familiar with. He was secretly asking the Chamber of Commerce for information regarding the Demon King's Dao Ground and the Big Goblin Dai. Luckily, many powerhouses were still looking for the Demon King's Dao Ground in the core of the earth. As for the Big Goblin Dai, there wasn't much information. Chapter 1072. Of course, other than the Demon Emperor's dojo and Dai, he also wanted to know the whereabouts of Shangde, Bai Tsubing, and other experts. There were many chambers of commerce in the heavenly earth-barren city. In fact, they were all secretly supported by big forces. Otherwise, they were controlled by top experts in the dark. The Chamber of Commerce was also very reliable. After asking around, he found out that Shangde had disappeared for a long time. No one knew if he was dead or alive. As for Bai Tsubing, he was still looking for rare treasures in the Huangze astral world. An evil person like him could cause a storm wherever he went. To snatch Bai Tsubing's feather fan, this guy must still be looking for him in the Huangze astral world. As for Shangde, he was really a sinister and shameless expert. He had to be careful. From time to time, ancient magic treasures would shoot out from the Phoenix Transformation Canyon. These magic treasures were at least high-grade Dao treasures, and some were even supreme-grade Dao treasures. Any one of them was a supreme treasure, and it still attracted countless experts to search for treasures there. Because of the Earth Core melting realm, it attracted even more major powers and cultivators to search for the desolate swamp astral realm. Because of the Demon Emperor's dojo, the Huangze astral world had become a sacred place that everyone looked forward to, not a wasteland. After asking around, Su Fong used the rune talisman to contact Dai. However, there was not much movement until he left the heavenly earth-barren city. When he was about to enter the Huangze astral world, he sensed some vital chi from the constellation of 9 heavens at the edge of the wasteland. Stepping into the wasteland, he released his sensing power. In the depths of the forest, there were more than 100 disciples from the Star Palace. They were all core disciples in the Heaven Immortal Realm. Most of them were in the Xian Immortal Realm. Could these people be looking for Dai? There were probably more experts among them. Thinking that Dai would definitely respond once she sensed the rune talisman, Su Fong quietly went around the forest and stepped into the wasteland again. He really did not know where Dai was. Even if she was not in the Huangze astral world, she should have responded after the rune talisman had been transmitting her primordial spirit for such a long time. There were only 2 possibilities. She was either hiding in a secret place or in a dangerous place where the rune talisman could not sense her. As a disciple of a big force, he had an advantage. Once he encountered danger in the wasteland, there were experts from the same sect everywhere to help him. But Su Fong didn't care about that. After entering the depths of the desolate lands, there was still a long way to go before they reached the perilous lands, such as the 7 Stars Mountain Range and Floating Soul Valley. He had not come here to find the Demon Emperor's training ground, but to inform Dai. Therefore, after venturing a certain distance, he set up a formation in a forest valley. After the formation was set up, he got Tung Ba to hide outside the cave with the rune talisman. Summoning the Void Dust Cauldron transformation, he waited for Dai's response while cultivating the Yellow Springs Blood Sea inside the cauldron transformation. This was a desolate land, not the Star Palace. Su Fong could cultivate the underworld Blood Sea without any worries. With Tung Ba guarding the periphery, he was not afraid of any danger. ZZZ, the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, was unleashed. After swallowing the medicinal pills, the bloody water began to boil and burst into sparks. It was 1 size larger than before, and now it was more than 30 meters wide. He could finally cultivate the Yellow Springs Blood Sea without restraint. Several months later, Tung Ba suddenly sent a voice transmission. Master, a group of demon Dao experts suddenly came from outside. It seems like they want to rest near where we are. Devil Path expert. As soon as Su Fong heard this, he stopped cultivating. He instantly transformed into a human and flew out of the Crucible Transformation Realm. He put away the Crucible Transformation Realm and went to the cave entrance with Tung Ba to release his great perfection stage ability. After passing through a large forest, he saw more than 30 figures of demon chi 5 miles away. When he took a closer look, it was really a coincidence. They were demon Tao cultivators from the demonic mountain. Since the demon emperor's training ground was about to appear and the demonic mountain was determined to get it, they would definitely send countless experts and disciples into the Huangzi astral realm. This was just one of them. Fortunately, there were no peerless experts like the elders, so they couldn't see demon chi as powerful as Blood Sovereign Sai and Sovereign Ba Mo. Most of them were at the mystic immortal realm, and some were at the heaven immortal realm. At this time, the great perfection demonic Tao cultivators released their power. One of the middle-aged demonic Tao cultivators, whose strength was on par with Nangong Tu's, or even slightly stronger, gathered a few of his trusted subordinates and began to discuss. Currently, the sect is wholeheartedly searching for the Demon Emperor's dojo. The demonic chi dojo that appeared in the Earth's core melting realm last time was confirmed by all the major forces and was not the Demon Emperor's dojo at all. However, from some fragments of demonic patterns, that demonic chi dojo actually belonged to an expert under the Yellow Springs Demon Emperor. This is enough to prove that the Demon Emperor's dojo is in the Huangzi astral boundary. However, this time, we didn't come here to find the Demon Emperor's dojo or that demonic brat. Someone asked, "Our sect's demon artifact must be our sect's supreme treasure. What treasure is it? Senior brother, come out and let us listen and broaden our horizons." There's a treasure. Su Fong, who wanted to leave, just wanted to know what these demonic mountain disciples wanted to do or what they were doing here. Who knew that when they heard the word treasure, that middle-aged demon Tao cultivator continued. This treasure is called the Demon King Rakshasa. It's a mask. What's so special about a mask? A mask isn't an offensive or defensive Dharma treasure. It's usually used by women. Then you're all wrong. Although this Demon King Rakshasa is a mask, it has two extraordinary abilities. First, when it's worn, people can't see through it. Even the origin mirror can't easily see through it. Second, this mask has an amazing defensive ability. It really is a treasure, but it's not very attractive to ordinary cultivators. That's hard to say. Some people need this kind of treasure. Everyone, let's stop discussing. The Demon King Rakshasa was forged by an expert of our demonic mountain a long time ago. It's a high-grade Dharma treasure. Inside, there's an amazing refining technique left behind. It's very precious. This is why the Elder wants us to look for the mask. Once we've rested enough, we'll have done a great service by finding the mask. After they finished speaking, they quieted down. Someone went out to order the other Demon Tao cultivators to do their jobs while the others rested. Demon King Rakshasa. That's great. This mask is indeed useless to others, but it's very useful to me. With this mask, I don't have to spend energy to change my appearance every time, and I don't have to worry about my true appearance being seen through. The mask also has defensive abilities and many refining techniques of Demonic Mountain. It just so happens that I'm lacking such a Dharma treasure. Not long ago, when I saw Fairy Xuanxin, I felt that her mask wasn't simple. I couldn't see through her appearance. If I get the Demon King Rakshasa, I can openly snatch Dharma treasures in the future. I want this Demon King Rakshasa. He secretly smiled and asked Tung Ba to return to the Void Dust Cauldron. Then he asked the Wuling Goblin to come out. It transformed into its original form and sucked Su Fong into it. The Wuling Goblin's current strength was not much different from Su Fong's. It had swallowed a supreme-grade gem back then, so its strength had broken through faster than the other big goblins. Now, it had more room to show off in the wasteland. With a whoosh, it came to the dozens of experts of Demonic Mountain and waited quietly. After about half a month, these experts of Demonic Mountain lazily came out. They followed this group of people and slowly approached a dangerous place. Su Fong had entered and exited Huangzi astral realm several times. He had already been to the 100 Rivers Swamp, Phoenix Transformation Canyon, Giant Thorn Forest, Silent Flame Plains, Seven Stars Mountain Range, Floating Soul Valley, and the Earth's Core Melting Realm. He had been to almost half of the dangerous places in Huang's astral realm. The dangerous place he was going now happened to be very similar to the giant thorn forest. It was also the dangerous place where he met the nameless fruit tree and snatched the nameless fruit. The dangerous place he was going to this time was called the miasma cloud boundary. The miasma cloud boundary was somewhat similar to the Earth's core melting realm. They were both terrifying underground ruins with many spatial turbulences. It was very dangerous. The most terrifying thing was that in the miasma cloud boundary, there was a large amount of miasma poison. This kind of miasma poison was very frightening and could be found everywhere. Without special pills, even mystic immortal cultivators would be trapped inside for a while. They would eventually absorb the miasma poison and die helplessly. Not long after, the experts of Demonic Mountain entered the endless forest. There are also many mountain ranges in the depths. However, in the depths of the forest near the mountain ranges, there were some natural caves with dark green aura permeating the ground. This green aura was the miasma poison. When the experts of Demonic Mountain arrived here, everyone was given a lot of antidote pills. Obviously, these people had made ample preparations. Su Fong, on the other hand, used ghost power to connect his breathing with ghosts. This way, the miasma poison he breathed in was directly filtered into Ghost's body. Wooling Goblin wasn't afraid of the miasma poison either. It had this kind of filtering ability. With a swoosh, it followed the experts of Demonic Mountain into the miasma cloud boundary like a gray snake. During this process, Su Fong learned about the miasma cloud boundary from Tong Ba. Combined with the map, he knew that the miasma cloud boundary was rich in poisonous fruits and all kinds of spiritual herbs that could cleanse the body. In addition, there were also some magic treasures that would explode over a long period of time in the miasma cloud boundary. When they arrived at the depths of the miasma cloud boundary, which was still dark green, the disciples of Demonic Mountain split into several groups. They went to the depths of the miasma cloud forest and the Karst cave and began to search for the place where the traitor of Demonic Mountain died. Su Fong also used his great perfection ability and sensed that there were dozens of powerful cultivators here. They were searching for all kinds of spiritual objects in the Earth's core melting realm. With a glance, he saw several spiritual herbs that contained surging vitality. Good heavens, good treasures. If they were fused into medicinal pills, especially the yin-yang immortal sky pill, then the medicinal power of the pill would be even more astonishing. He plucked them. Wooling Goblin whooshed a few times and went to the spiritual herbs. With a roll of its tongue, the spiritual herbs were sucked into its stomach. While searching for spiritual herbs, he also used his great perfection ability to follow the experts of Demonic Mountain in search of Ghostface Rakshasa. Gradually, they arrived at the depths of the miasma cloud boundary. Suddenly, the disciples of Demonic Mountain sped up. Su Fong didn't have time to care about the various spiritual objects. He made Wooling Goblin speed up, shuttling back and forth on the cliffs and precipitous cliffs to catch up with the experts of Demonic Mountain. When he rushed over to take a look, he saw that everyone had arrived at the surroundings of an underground canyon that was emitting astonishing spatial airflow. Several disciples were controlling a special flying sword. The flying sword's aura kept seeping downwards. Su Fong knew what they were doing with a single glance. That flying sword must be a magic weapon that had an aura that was compatible with the Ghost King's mask. They were controlling the flying sword to sense the area below. They probably sensed a faint devil aura seeping out of the canyon that was emitting a faint spatial airflow. The Ghost King Rakshasa was right below. This traitor was a powerful cultivator of our Demonic Mountain in the past. It turns out that his corpse couldn't be found after so many years. He was actually buried in such a dangerous underground canyon. The strongest cultivator, a middle-aged demonic Tao expert, focused for a moment, then decisively ordered everyone. They immediately formed hand seals and released astonishing devil aura that fused together. In the end, the middleman and several of the strongest cultivators used the devil aura released by everyone to tangle together and turn into chains. Several people grabbed the chains and began to slowly descend along the cliffs of the underground canyon. Chapter 1073. Master, don't worry. I'm fine. I'm much stronger now, so I can fuse with the rocks in the wasteland. The Wooling Goblin also immediately moved out. Su Fong was worried about the danger, so he still asked about it. However, the Wooling Goblin didn't take it seriously and approached the spatial canyon from the surface of the ruins. It silently crawled around the demonic experts. The strength of the demons surpassed that of humans. Su Fong also had earth elemental abilities, but he couldn't do it to this extent. Tut, 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 whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, when it came to the spatial airflow, it didn't expect that a burst of spatial airflow, which wasn't as terrifying as the ones in the Phoenix Transformation Canyon, would actually cause the ground to shake. The Wooling Goblin was almost swept away. The spatial airflow was too terrifying. Fortunately, the spatial airflow in the spatial canyon wasn't constantly shooting out. The Wooling Goblin carefully crawled into the canyon and immediately saw an endless spatial turbulence in the depths of the canyon. It was like a kind of illusory spatial nebula that slowly surged in the depths. Su Fong's heart was stuck in his throat. The Wooling Goblin was also somewhat afraid, but fortunately, it had earth elemental abilities. It could grab onto the cliff's rocks and fuse with them a little before slowly crawling down the cliff. Su Fong looked forward again. About 200 feet away, there were 5 demonic mountain experts on the cliff. Each of them was as strong as Nangong Tu, especially the middle-aged demonic expert at the front who was using the demonic aura chain to crawl. Using everyone's strength, he was actually able to resist the weak spatial airflow. As expected of a large faction, with 30 experts working together, their overall strength was close to that of an elder. However, these people's speed was still slower than the Wooling Goblin's. Su Fong was really glad that he met the Wooling Goblin. Unfortunately, its strength wasn't as high as Tung Ba's. If it was at Tung Ba's height, it would have surpassed these people long ago. In the dark, Su Fong also adjusted his breathing and used his perfected ability to look at the spatial airflow that swept out from time to time. This was far inferior to the underground spatial airflow he encountered in the Phoenix Transformation Canyon. The airflow there could kill an elder in one shot. The airflow here seemed weak, but it could only kill heaven immortals and seriously injure mystic immortals. I saw it, 1,000 feet deep in the space canyon. Amidst the twisting and surging nebula, Su Fong saw a broken section of the cliff protruding out and a white skeleton. The white skull emitted a demonic aura that kept rising. There was also a white mask with some blood-red patterns on it. Ghost-face Rakshasa. What a special mask, a magical treasure. Looking around, there were 2 skeletons and 3 flying swords around them. The quality of the swords had reached the pinnacle of high grade. They must have been used by the 3 people when they were alive. These 3 flying swords could be used by the Big Goblin. After all, the Big Goblin would always lack Dharma treasures and powerful divine weapons. Master, we can't go too fast. The deeper we sink, the more terrifying and unpredictable the spatial airflow will be. Moreover, there's a natural suction force coming from the depths of the spatial canyon, as if it wants to suck everything in. If we're not careful, we might be sucked into the spatial canyon and fall into the strange outer space. Su Fong was very anxious. He wanted to get the demonic face Rakshasa as soon as possible, and then leave quietly. However, the Wooling Goblin's speed could not be increased. It could only approach the abyss step by step. Looking at the 5 experts, they were a bit slower than the Wooling Goblin. They were about 15 feet away from the Wooling Goblin. At this distance, it was impossible to get the demonic face Rakshasa under the noses of the 5 experts. It seemed that in the end, he would have to fight with the 5 experts to get the demonic face Rakshasa. He clenched his teeth. Fighting against 5 peerless transcendental immortals, Nangong Tu's strength had also reached the heavenly immortal and profound immortal realms. However, he had been heavily injured by Dai Yi, allowing Su Fong to use various methods to kill Nangong Tuesday. As for the 5 experts in front of him, none of them were injured. They were also experts of the Devil Path. Su Fong would have difficulty dealing with one, let alone five. However, he still decided to snatch the demonic face Rakshasa. This was not a normal environment, but a spatial abyss. With the natural restraints and the Wuling Goblin's natural advantage, Su Fong was confident he could get the demonic face Rakshasa and leave safely. They were getting closer. After 2 hours of arduous progress and enduring the spurting spatial turbulence, whether it was Su Fong, the Wuling Goblin, or the 5 experts of the demonic mountain, they were all in a state of fear. Gradually, they came into contact with some surging clouds and mist, and they could already see the broken section of the cliff. Su Fong looked to the top left. The 5 experts of the Devil Path were 10 feet away from him. It was impossible for them to snatch the demonic face Rakshasa at the same time. Making up his mind, Su Fong's eyes suddenly burst with a strong desire to plunder. Master! 1/3 of the Wuling Goblin's body merged with the cliff. Then, it suddenly opened its mouth. Whoosh! Su Fong flew out of the big mouth like the Wuling Goblin's tongue. A feather fan immediately appeared under his feet. Stepping on the feather fan, Su Fong used the feather fan's defensive power to quickly fly to the broken section of the cliff. Not good. Someone want to snatch the demonic face Rakshasa. In a breath, the 5 experts of the Devil Path above saw the figure on the feather fan flying directly toward the demonic face Rakshasa. If we lose the demonic face Rakshasa, we'll be in big trouble. I'll go first. Who would have thought? The strongest middle-aged expert of the Devil Path suddenly shook off the devil chi chains wrapped around his body. Stepping on his flying sword, he ignored the air currents spurting out of it and pounced towards Su Fong like an angry bull. Which madman dares to have designs on my demonic mountain? The expert roared furiously. Su Fong glanced behind him. Ignoring him, he flew even faster toward the broken section of the cliff. He was getting closer, even closer. Whoosh! A terrifying sword chi transformed from devil chi, surpassing the speed of the Devil Path expert and Su Fong's speed by several times. It suddenly attacked him from behind. Oomph! His heart skipped a beat. Controlling the feather fan one step faster, he cleverly dodged the sword chi before continuing to fly toward the demonic face Rakshasa. The Devil Path expert was anxious. He didn't care that he was in a spatial abyss. Increasing his speed by 3 times, he obviously exceeded his speed. Go! Su Fong sensed it and immediately took out a dozen poison gas talismans. He attacked it. The other party also unleashed even more sword chi, chasing after Su Fong with a swoosh. Stepping on the feather fan, Su Fong felt like he was steering a boat on a huge wave. Braving the wind and breaking the waves, he didn't look awe-inspiring. Sword chi flashed one after another as he deeply experienced the wonders of the feather fan. Swish! At this time, he finally arrived at the broken section of the cliff. He was still 1 zhang away. Su Fong impatiently waved his hand and sucked the white bone, the flying sword, and the demonic face Rakshasa into his palm. After collecting everything, the Devil Path expert was already above him. His eyes looked like he wanted to eat someone. Brat, hand over the demonic face Rakshasa. I've already taken it. How can I get it to you? I've never been polite to your demonic mountain. Stepping on the feather fan, he flipped and dodged the Devil Path expert who was like a hunting eagle. However, the Devil Path expert was a peerless expert after all. With another devil chi explosion, Su Fong couldn't completely dodge at this time. He saw a large amount of devil chi being affected by the airflow in the air. Moreover, controlling the feather fan wasn't as good as controlling it on the ground, so the devil chi immediately engulfed him. After a burst of starlight, Su Fong, who was releasing devil chi, rose up with the devil chi. He coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood and flew away on the feather fan. That's a feather fan. It's a divine weapon used by ancient cultivators. Its speed and power are better than a flying sword. How can such an ancient treasure be worthy of a low-level Devil Path cultivator like you? The Devil Path expert didn't expect his powerful attack to fail to kill that expert. Seeing Su Fong fleeing, he chased after him on his flying sword. His speed was better than Su Fong's, who was controlling the feather fan. Seeing that the Devil Path expert was getting closer and closer, and that the Devil Path expert was about to catch Su Fong, a strange shadow unexpectedly swallowed Su Fong in one gulp. Only a gray stone belt was left, and it quickly went in the direction of the other cliff. Senior Marshal Brother, we'll help you. Such a Devil Path cultivator won't be able to escape from our hands. All right, be careful. This person has the assistance of a big goblin. That's why he's able to follow us without us noticing. 4 Devil Path experts attacked from above. The middle-aged Devil Path expert flicked his finger, and the 4 of them split into 2 groups. One group stayed above, while the other group of 2 experts charged at the Wooling Goblin. Finally, the strongest middle-aged man saw the Wooling Goblin's astonishing speed and suddenly formed a hand seal. A whirlpool of devil chi appeared around him. This devil chi whirlpool seemed to be a kind of supreme divine ability. It crazily swept up, and even the surrounding air was sucked into it. Heavenly Devil's Fury. The expert pressed his hands together, and the devil chi whirlpool was like a monster with fangs. It fiercely charged at the Wooling Goblin. Hurry! Within the Wooling Goblin's body, Su Fong saw the 2 experts' divine auras, as well as the middle-aged Devil Path experts' devil chi whirlpool. They were already 10 meters behind the Wooling Goblin. They were surrounded by the abyss's void. Aside from the spatial air, there was also a special mist. The most frightening thing was the spatial air. It kept shooting out, and the vibrating energy covered the entire abyss's void. The 5 Devil Path experts and the Wooling Goblin were all affected. Being in the spatial air was like being in an ocean. They could only drift along with the waves, unable to resist the power of the ocean. Humans and other life forms were insignificant in front of nature. In this moment of life and death, the Wooling Goblin desperately rushed toward the cliff. As long as it reached the cliff, it would be able to display its innate ability. If it was in the spatial air, it wouldn't have any advantage and would be caught by the 5 experts. At this moment, the 2 experts at the top saw the Wooling Goblin's movements and suddenly flew over. You can't escape. The devil chi is boundless. That expert and the 2 experts who were chasing after Su Fong formed the same hand seals at the same time. The hand seals were exactly the same. The devil chi whirlpool that was chasing after them suddenly spun faster. Its size also fiercely transformed into a devil chi flame, and its attack speed suddenly doubled. In less than 3 breaths' time, the Wooling Goblin would be swallowed whole. The Wooling Goblin panicked. Master, if this continues, there will be 3 experts chasing us from behind, and 2 more from above. This subordinate doesn't have any confidence in being able to escape. It's fine. If worst comes to worst, we'll just fight it out with them. If they think this is all I have, then try your best to escape. Su Fong was very calm. He had experienced this kind of pursuit too many times, and he had long since become numb to it. This was the only way to make his blood boil. Boom! Who knew? The demonic energy storm cast by the 3 great experts had probably shattered a large amount of jets of air or stirred the abyss clouds and air to change their trajectories. A terrifying shockwave suddenly spread endlessly from all directions. This was especially true in the depths of the abyss. Su Fong felt that something was wrong. When he looked down, he sucked in a breath of cold air. He saw a dazzling spatial airflow that was nearly 300 meters long shooting out from the abyss. Even the 5 experts stopped attacking and began to flee. What was even more unexpected was that the airflow that was about to shoot out was just a sudden burst of light. The 6 of them broke out in a cold sweat, and their hearts raced. The 5 Devil Dao experts rejoiced. Just as they were about to attack again, a continuous stream of cloud and mist suddenly disappeared along with the light of the space jet. The 6 of them were suddenly swallowed up like a giant mouth of an abyss. Chapter 1074. The invisible mouth of the abyss, which was caused by the violent jet of light, swallowed the 6 of them almost instantly and silently. Senior Marshal Brother. Where are you? Senior Marshal Brothers. A few demonic mountain experts carefully flew over from above. They couldn't sense the 5 experts' auras all of a sudden, so they naturally wanted to come and take a look. However, They couldn't see anyone in the abyss. Let's go. Let's leave this place. The jet of space will shoot out at any time. We can't resist it. Senior Marshall brothers, you guys are so unlucky. You were probably sucked into that space by the power of the abyss and lost forever. Let's go. When they couldn't see anyone, they panicked and ran away. They only cared about their own life and death. How could they care about others? As they left, the spatial abyss was still shooting out shocking jets of air and the strange abyss clouds. No one knew what was under the clouds. At this moment, in the depths of the spatial abyss, amidst the clouds, whoosh, whoosh, the five figures and the wooling goblin were swept up by an invisible force. Everyone lost their balance and kept tumbling inside. Then, they were sucked into the depths of the invisible force. A spatial light mark was twisting and tearing. This light mark seemed to have infinite tearing power. It suddenly tore open a shocking hole at the bottom of the spatial abyss. The light that came out seemed to come from hell. The five demonic mountain experts were indeed powerful. They could barely release their divine abilities while being sucked in by the power of nature. Their faces were trembling, and their expressions were ferocious and full of fear. They wanted to use their divine abilities to break the power of nature that was sucking them into the abyss. However, they underestimated the power of the spatial abyss. They could barely release their divine abilities, but they still couldn't restrain the power of nature and were quickly sucked into the light mark. There was only regret, helplessness, and the fear of death in their eyes. At this moment, not only were the five demonic Tao experts helpless, but they were also sucked into the light mark. The wooling goblin kept tumbling inside and couldn't control its balance. It said to Su Fong in panic, "Master, master, we're also going to be sucked into the spatial abyss." The power of the spatial abyss suppressed the wooling goblin so much that it couldn't unfold its body. I also didn't expect to encounter this. Su Fong, who was inside the wooling goblin, didn't directly come into contact with the power of the spatial shackles, but he could see how dangerous it was. He also panicked. He was even uneasy, but if he couldn't calm down, it would mean that he and wooling goblin would die here. He looked again at the spatial abyss, which was almost right in front of him. Su Fong's expression became resolute. The suction force of the spatial airflow is so strong that even those five experts couldn't struggle free. We can forget about escaping. Once we enter the extraterritorial space, run for your life and hide. Don't let those five experts chase after us. But we're trapped in outer space. We can't escape at all. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't believe that the heavens will always leave a way out. They'll definitely think of a way. Furthermore, I don't know what the legendary outer space is like. I will listen to Master. Wooling Goblin had no other choice. Suddenly, the Wooling Goblin was the first to be sucked into the spatial crack. With a whoosh, the huge Wooling Goblin was sucked into the crack and disappeared from the spatial abyss. No. After a breath of time, the five experts of Demonic Mountain were regretting their decision. They shouted that they were unwilling, but the light crack was like a whale swallowing fish and shrimp, instantly sucking them in. The crack of the light crack slowly healed like a wound. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, the five experts suddenly appeared in a gray and gloomy space-time in the corner of their eyes. Probably because the suction force was too strong, the five of them couldn't control their bodies after entering the space and fell into the rubble on the ground. After a while, the experts struggled to get up and looked around with uneasy and trembling eyes. This is the extraterritorial space. The middle-aged demonic expert was the first to get up. His body was covered in blood, which showed that he was seriously injured. But he couldn't care less about his injuries. He had to find a way out. A way out. The other four also looked around and found that they seemed to have entered an abyss full of dust. In addition to dust, there was a large amount of rubble and ruins. Moreover, there was no spiritual energy here. The dust was like star sand and had a terrifying power. The experts tried to absorb the spiritual energy, but the dust was sucked into their bodies. As soon as the dust penetrated their skin, it stuck to their skin like glue and began to block their flesh and meridians. The experts were so scared that they gave up on absorbing and recuperating. After a while, they came to the side of the strongest, middle-aged man, listlessly. Senior, what should we do? Let's get used to this place first, then find the stone monster and that kid, and take back the ghost face Rakshasa. Since we're already here, maybe we can contact the higher-ups. Yes. The middle-aged man waved his hand, and the few of them chose a few rocks and sat down. If they couldn't absorb spiritual energy in this outer realm, then the only thing that could bring spiritual energy was immortal stones. Immortal pills and spiritual items were very rare. Unless it was the last moment, they couldn't use them casually. In the dust ruins 1 mile away, a black stone belt trembled a few times, and a few cracks could be seen on the gray stone belt. Wooling Goblin struggled a few times, but it still maintained its motionless state. It used its own ability to merge with the ruins' aura. Master, I'm seriously injured. The force of the impact almost shattered my bones. The 5 experts are recuperating. I can sense that there is no spiritual energy in this outer realm. These people won't waste their true energy so easily. Let's leave this place slowly. I have to personally release my senses in the outer realm to see what kind of place this is. This subordinate can only hold on for a while. After Black Ridge responded, he slowly burrowed into the depths of the ruins, which were filled with even more rubble. The outer realm was filled with dust, and one could only see 1 mile with the naked eye. How could there be spiritual energy in this space? After an hour, they were finally a few miles away from the 5 experts. Su Fong leaped out and sucked Wooling Goblin into the void dust cauldron, giving it some pills to recover. The outer realm. Su Fong thought for a moment and looked around. It was best to find a secret place to hide. Otherwise, if the 5 experts caught up to him, there would be a life and death battle. Su Fong rode his feather fan. What surprised him was that this outer realm didn't have any restrictions. He could fly as he pleased. However, he sensed that there was no spiritual energy in the depths of the ruins. This meant that if any cultivator came here and wasted their true energy, they would never be able to recover it. Even if they had spirit stones and immortal pills, they would only be able to replenish their energy. They wouldn't be able to bring about boundless power. After leaving the 5 experts a dozen miles away, he looked around and saw an endless world of dust. It felt like this place had been sealed for countless years. Fortunately, more and more rubble appeared. Some of them even formed a huge mountain. He found a very secret shattered stone cave. After entering, he only used a sensing formation. He didn't want to waste any true energy. This time, it's all thanks to Wooling Goblin. If my true body had experienced this, I would definitely have been seriously injured. I would never be able to recover to my peak. After sitting for a while and calming down, Su Fong began to use his perfect state ability. He wanted to see what kind of world this outer realm was. His vision, hearing, and other senses began to penetrate. He passed through the void of dust. 1 mile, 3 miles, until he was 10 miles away. He first saw the depths of the sky, passing through layers of dust. When his senses reached the top, he actually saw a layer of starlight. This layer of gas not only had starlight, but also some multicolored light fused together. It looked like a mirage. He could even see some stars in the colorful layer of gas. You don't need to look. At this time, Luo said, I have fallen into this kind of outer realm several times. The colorful layer of gas you see is actually the abyss space you are in. It borders the natural space outside. The friction, collision, and coexistence of the 2 spaces is a kind of natural gap. This kind of natural gap isolates all kinds of energy and is very sturdy. Sky Immortals and Xian Immortals can't move it at all. Only people like the Elders can enter the natural gap, but it's not very likely to leave unless they have some special spatial methods or a special Dao tool. You mean this is the abyss space? Only space-related divine abilities can leave. Su Fong was startled. Yes, often only those powerful spatial experts can truly move unhindered in these wastelands. Luo, then how did you leave this kind of outer realm space? I open it with my fist. With my fist. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, there is nothing you can't break with your strength. Most things can be broken with simple strength. You can't bully me like this. Luo was so powerful that if he wanted to leave this abyss space, he could just shatter it with his fist. Not to mention most cultivators, even in the entire constellation of 9 heavens, how many people could do it? The outer realm space of the abyss is actually a kind of natural spatial tear and movement. Because of all kinds of special forces, it exists in the spatial tear formed by nature. The abyss space you are in now should be a spatial tear in the depths of the Huang Ze astral plane. That means the abyss space is still within nature, but it is a naturally formed spatial tear. Yes, this kind of small abyss space is not scary, but your cultivation is too weak, so you can't go out. The real outer realm space is very vast, and there are also all kinds of natural laws. Falling into it is like falling into a world with natural laws. That is the real outer realm space. Oh, why did it feel like Luo was just standing there and talking? Who cares so much? There is no sign of life within 10 miles. I guess there is only me and the 5 great masters of the demonic mountain here. Let's take a look at Ghostface Rakshasa first. After swallowing a few mid-grade pills, his state reached the peak of the celestial immortal realm. With a backhand grab, a white skull with a white surface appeared on his left hand. Taking off the mask, the white skull automatically turned into powder. Taking a closer look, although the white surface of the Ghostface Rakshasa was white like snow, there were some blood-red, demonic patterned spots at the corners of his eyes. They were like drops of blood that were seeping from the corners of his eyes. It was too bloody and evil. Not only were there such blood-red, demonic patterned spots at the corners of his eyes, but there was also a blood-red, oval gem embedded between the eyebrows of the mask. Looking at the red gem, his primordial spirit ocean trembled, and his young immortal began to tremble. With this mask, I will have another name, Ghostface Rakshasa. The blood-red gem was so strange, but Su Fong smiled very happily. Luo suddenly said, "That gem is a kind of primordial soul type, strange stone. It fused with the mask to form a magic treasure. Before fusing, don't look at it too much." Chapter 1075. Primordial Spirit Gem. This kind of gem was rare. Su Fong cultivated from the small world to the big world and rarely saw spatial gems. This was the first one he could touch at close range. Law continued. Primordial Spirit Gem is very rare and is one of the most precious stones. Once this gem is injected into a formation, the formation will be very terrifying. Once refined into a magic weapon, this magic weapon will have a very terrifying ability to shackle young immortals. Then what do you think of Ghostface Rakshasa? It's not bad. It's a peak high-grade Dao artifact. The key is that the refining material is very special. If you wear it, even a powerhouse like the Elder can't see through it. With the Primordial Spirit Gem, this mask can probably help you use Young Immortal to restrain strong enemies. Then I'll fuse with it first. After understanding it and hearing Law's affirmation, he was relieved. He dripped a few drops of blood and injected the power of the world of Yin and Yang into the mask together with the devil chi. Easy, the mask was like a piece of white jade, but it was more like a sleeping white face. It was cold as if it was made of ice and snow. But when Su Fong's blood dripped into the mask, the blood spots around the corners of the eyes of the white mask seemed to be alive, releasing blood-colored devil chi and actively absorbing Su Fong's essence blood. Even the blood-colored oval gem between his eyebrows began to absorb blood chi. Ghostface Rakshasa began to float in the air. After the gem and the blood spots devoured the blood, they began to take the initiative to release the special true chi from Su Fong. The true chi contained the power of the world of Yin and Yang, as well as devil chi. In this way, with the fusion of devil chi, Ghostface Rakshasa, as a devil artifact, would not reject it. Sure enough, the gem and the blood spots began to crazily absorb Su Fong's true chi. This process lasted for half an incense stick's time. It seemed that Ghostface Rakshasa absorbed a large amount of true chi, but to Su Fong, this amount of true chi was nothing. It was about the loss of 1 meridian. When the Ghost King mask calmed down, Su Fong found that his gaze seemed to be able to see through Ghostface Rakshasa. Carefully, curiously, and expectantly, he put on the Ghost King mask on his face. At this moment, the world seemed to turn into darkness, and a demonic will and power burned like lightning from his face to his whole body. The Devil Fiend caused Su Fang's entire being to transform into a Devil Fiend state, and then he was dominated by the Devil Fiend's will. Then, a blood-red flame suddenly pierced through the dark and boundless Devil Chi world. Seeing this flame, Su Fang knew that it was the power of the blood-red gem on the mask. Sure enough, in the next second, the boundless primordial spirit power rushed towards Su Fang's mind. This was to dominate his will. Su Fang would not be affected by the ghost-faced Rakshasa ruler. He immediately activated his powerful primordial spirit and used the heavenly demon disintegration seal. Countless young immortals released their divine aura, blocking the incoming red primordial spirit's divine aura outside of the primordial spirit ocean. At this time, Su Fang also released a large amount of true qi into the mask. No matter how powerful the mask was, it couldn't possibly contain Su Fang's true qi. In just a moment, the power of the blood-colored primordial spirit suddenly disappeared, because Su Fang's genuine qi had penetrated into the countless formations in the world inside the mask, and he had also mastered most of the formations. He activated a part of the formation and felt the ghost-faced Rakshasa fuse with his face. It was as natural as a layer of ice mask. Magical. He continued to fuse with more formations. As a result, the divine aura of the ghost-faced Rakshasa began to disappear. Instead, Su Fang's genuine qi and primordial spirit's divine aura began to dominate a large number of formations. After a long time, the mask fused weightlessly with Su Fang's face. Looking at Su Fang again, he was wearing a snow-white mask, but around the corners of his eyes, there seemed to be blood seeping out from the mask. Upon closer inspection, the mask was like a piece of paper or a mask. There was no thickness at all, and it was stuck to the skin. It was as if Su Fang had drawn a white, demonic bloodstained mask on his face with a brush. At this moment, the ghost-faced Rakshasa was no longer a mask, but a mask. Su Fang also couldn't feel that he was wearing a mask. He almost didn't feel anything, but there were layers of formations surrounding his face. It was that simple. What a magical ghost-faced Rakshasa. After a moment of joy, he carefully studied the formations. The formations in the ghost-faced Rakshasa were intertwined layer by layer, fusing with the material of the artifact, making it impossible for outsiders to see through the mask. In addition, there were many primordial spirit formations. Once activated, it could release young, immortal, and display astonishing primordial spirit's divine aura. Moreover, by activating the primordial spirit formations, with a mask gem as the source, he could release an astonishing amount of primordial spirit's pressure just by looking at the enemy. From now on, as long as I successfully leave the Nine Heavens Star, I won't have to spend energy changing my appearance. I can always bring this ghost-faced Rakshasa with me. After the fusion, Su Fang could almost master the mask. Although the ghost-faced Rakshasa had reached the peak of high grade, it wasn't a spatial, offensive, or defensive artifact, so it was easy to master. More than half a year passed. The 5 from the demonic mountain haven't moved yet. They're probably seriously injured and can't recover. What a pity. This is the best opportunity to deal with them, but if I really fight them, I'll have to pay a price. Even so, it'll be difficult for me to leave this abyss. If the enemy doesn't move, I'll move. With a whoosh, he flew out of the ruined cave. Along the low altitude, he released his great perfection ability to sense all movements within 5 kilometers, as well as the void, to see if there was anything. Buzz, suddenly, his great perfection ability sensed something. It was the aura of a magic artifact. Su Fang was curious. A magic artifact. Soon, he accurately came to a pile of rubble. Brushing away some dust on the surface, he saw 2 skeletons in the ruins. They had probably been dead for at least 10,000 years. Their bones had begun to decay, and after a long time, they had turned into a strange kind of ruined stone. There was also a flying sword and several storage rings. Great! In this abyss, There was no spiritual aura, but there were storage rings. Presumably, there should be a lot of spiritual items and elixirs in the storage rings. But when he broke the seal of the storage ring and entered it, other than some cold gems, secret manuals, and magic artifacts, there wasn't a single elixir. There weren't even many spiritual items or immortal stones. It was the same for the other storage rings. Luo Hai said, "There's no need to look. These cultivators were trapped here and couldn't absorb spiritual aura. They could only take elixirs and spiritual items to maintain their lives. In the end, they ran out and died here. It's too cruel." Su Fong was deeply touched. Waiting for death. Waiting for death. What a horrifying scene. Survival of the fittest. Since you want to walk the path of cultivators, you have to be mentally prepared. You will slowly see more of such scenes. Only by becoming stronger and becoming the strongest can you break free from the shackles of heaven and earth and break the laws of heaven and earth. This is also the fate of cultivators. You have to live and live well. After settling down, Su Fong continued to release his great perfection ability. But he didn't expect to see a lot of skeletons. There were probably more than 100 skeletons in total. Most of the storage rings didn't have any elixirs or immortal stones, only magic artifacts. Some of the corpses should have been sucked into this space after they died, so the storage rings were normal. There were a lot of spiritual items, such as elixirs and immortal stones. But more than half a month passed. Su Fong was already used to the abyss. He was alone in the dust world where there was no life. Unexpectedly, he thought he sensed magic artifacts again, but what he sensed with his great perfection ability was the aura of life. It wasn't just one, but 3 auras of life. The auras weren't strong. When he carefully passed through the dust and arrived at a mountain of ruins, he clearly saw some bones in a cave in the depths. Near the bones, 3 cultivators with torn robes like beggars were sitting cross-legged on a pile of immortal stones that were about to lose their spiritual chi. They were faintly absorbing spiritual chi. Judging from the state of their auras, they were less than 1/5 of their normal state. Looking at their faces, they were all in their 60s. Not only were their auras insufficient, but even their true chi was also insufficient. There were no protective formations around the cave. Even if he didn't have the great perfection ability, he could normally find the 3 of them if he approached this place. While Su Fong continued to sense, another cultivator suddenly flew over slowly. He was out of breath, obviously caused by the weakness of his true chi. "I thought there were only me and the 5 great cultivators of Demonic Mountain in this abyss." He unexpectedly encountered 4 living cultivators. But judging from the auras of these cultivators, although they were all experts, their strength was only at the mystic immortal realm. The 5 great experts of Demonic Mountain are also flying over here. They're too fast. As he continued to sense, he suddenly sensed 5 demonic auras flying over from 5 miles behind him. He didn't need to continue to sense to know that they were the 5 great experts of Demonic Mountain. The 5 of them were very fast and soon came 1 mile away from the mountain, but they suddenly noticed something and flew towards this ruined mountain. At this moment, Su Fong saw the 5 of them flying out of the ruined mountain with his naked eyes. There are 4 auras. I wonder if they're with that brat. No matter if it's him or not, we're now seriously injured. There's no extra spiritual chi in the abyss, and it's not like our supplies are inexhaustible. Let's capture these 4 people, eat their flesh, and drink their blood. This way, we can kill people to recover from our injuries. Ah, good idea. The 5 great experts communicated with each other, revealing strong killing intent. How can I let you do as you wish? If you recover, I'll be in trouble. After hearing this, his heart couldn't help but thump. He immediately used his great perfection ability and sent a thought to the cave inside the ruined mountain where the 4 people were. The 4 people inside were originally cultivating, but they suddenly stood up nervously. Then, they jointly activated several flying swords, lying in ambush outside the cave, and continued to cultivate as if nothing had happened. As for the experts of Demonic Mountain, the 5 great experts were approaching the cave from the stone cave. As for Su Fong, You want to kill us, but I won't let you go. Today, I'll borrow the hands of those 4 people. Even if I have to consume a lot of true chi, I'll get rid of the 5 of you here." Su Fong, who was leading Ghostface Rakshasa, suddenly waved his hand. 2 puppet demonic soldiers appeared beside him and followed him to the edge of the mountain. Rumble. In an instant, there were explosions and collisions coming from inside the ruined mountain. The 5 great experts of Demonic Mountain wanted to assassinate the 4 people, but they were ambushed by the 4 people's Tao artifacts and were caught off guard. Su Fong used his great perfection ability and saw that the 5 people were confused by the attack. However, the 5 people had more true chi than the 4 people. In addition, they had a lot of resources. Although they were seriously injured, they still counterattacked in time and started a fierce fight in the narrow space inside. There was a burst of wind. Su Fong took the 2 demonic puppets and flew into the cave where dust and air were spurting out. Then he saw a demonic mountain expert chasing a skinny cultivator. Taking advantage of the demonic Tao expert's carelessness, he suddenly ordered the 2 demonic puppets. Swish! With the speed and momentum of a tiger pouncing on its prey, the 2 demonic puppets suddenly attacked the demonic Tao expert from behind. With just one punch, the demonic Tao expert was caught off guard and was thrown off balance. Boom! The next second, before the demonic Tao expert could react, he was trampled into meat paste by the other demonic puppet. Chapter 1076. They got rid of 1 person. There were 4 people left. Why you? 2 demonic soldiers appeared out of nowhere and killed a celestial demonic mountain cultivator with a palm strike and a stomp. They were directly finished off. This caused the demonic mountain expert, who was as thin as a match and had almost lost his life, to be shocked like a log. In particular, he was so frightened by the 2 great demonic puppets that he lost all ability to react. Su Fong stood on the shoulders of the 2 demonic soldiers and looked down at the cultivator. "These are my enemies. I secretly informed them that they wanted to deal with you just now. Tell your companions to follow me and kill the 4 of them. There will be benefits waiting for you." Okay. When the cultivator saw Su Fong with Ghostface Rakshasa, he knew that Su Fong was not someone to be trifled with, so he could only nod repeatedly. Su Fong jumped, and the 2 demonic soldiers protected Su Fong on both sides. "Senior, wait for me." Only then did the venerable cultivator react, and immediately followed. "Call me Senior." He was shocked and glanced at the powerhouse from the corner of his eyes. Could it be that this person didn't see his cultivation level? Luo Zai suddenly said, "It's because after you put on the demonic face Rakshasa, the mask has a godly aura that covers your entire body. Not only can cultivators not see through your appearance, they can't see through your body either. It's so amazing. This is a peak high-grade Tao artifact. It's a supreme treasure in the great world. In addition, the material and refining method are special. It has a gem that contains the divine power of the essence spirit. If ordinary people want to see through you, they will be instantly devoured by the divine power contained in the gem. Therefore, ordinary people can't see through your appearance. Of course, you have to pay attention to your cultivation level. Don't release your heaven immortal aura casually. It's best to use special powers like illusory fire cloud, ethereal truth, and the power of the yin-yang world. I understand. Don't use the 9 heavenly stars small phase art. So you have this ghost face Rakshasa. From now on, you don't have to worry about outsiders seeing through your cultivation level and appearance. Good. Since he called him Senior, Su Fong and Luo Zai talked for a while and suddenly turned to the cultivator who was chasing them. He waited for a moment until the other party flew over. I got a strange treasure and was surrounded by the experts of Demonic Mountain. If you help me, I will definitely give you benefits afterward. Yes, Senior. The cultivator looked to be in his 60s, but in front of Su Fong, he looked like a junior. Senior. Several breaths later, they arrived at another cave. Inside, 2 great experts of Demonic Mountain were besieging an old cultivator who was releasing a round wheel to protect his body. Su Fong chuckled. This cultivator is very powerful. He's the one with the highest cultivation among us. Unfortunately, He's been trapped in the abyss for 10,000 years. He's exhausted a lot of his true chi, so he can't be considered a peak expert. Then let's kill. Without the slightest hesitation, Su Fong stomped his feet, and the two demonic soldier puppets on his left and right charged toward the two demonic mountain experts. The cultivator also activated his flying sword and charged out. Su Fong called out the emotionless sword spy. When he looked again, he saw that the two demonic mountain experts had already been entangled by the two demonic puppets. The expert who managed to break free met up with the other old man. After they said something, the two of them urged their magic weapons together, especially that round wheel. It expanded to a size of 10 zhong and cooperated with the demonic puppets to attack the two demonic mountain experts. They slipped away. There was no need for Su Fong to make a move. Not far away, in two ruins, the strongest middle-aged demonic mountain expert and the other person saw that the situation was bad. They knew that their fellow disciples had been killed or had fallen into an encirclement, so they unexpectedly slipped away. Demonic Tao cultivators were indeed cunning. Of course, because of this, they could live a long life. The other two old cultivators also rushed over to help. The four of them and the two demonic puppets killed the two demonic mountain experts in less than half an hour. Now, only the two demonic Tao cultivators who escaped were left. At this time, the smell of blood dissipated. Su Fong arrived above the two demonic puppets. Using the ghost-face Rakshasa mask, he looked down at the four cultivators who had been trapped in the abyss for many years. Senior, you are the strongest old cultivator who used the round wheel magic weapon politely saluted. Several people beside him found several storage rings from the corpses and were very unhappy. Su Fong said domineeringly, I'm a ghost-face Rakshasa. I'm both righteous and evil, but I'm not a demonic mountain cultivator. I was accidentally chased into the abyss by these 5 experts. I can see that each of you has less than 1/5 of your normal strength. I'm afraid that even if you get these resources, immortal pills, and immortal stones, you won't be able to recover much. At most, you can persist here for a few years, but the end is still waiting for death slowly. These words were undoubtedly a wake-up call to the 4 people, pouring a bucket of cold water over them. The 4 of them looked at each other. The strongest cultivator saluted. Senior, you're right. In these years, we've seen many people die here alive. So resources aren't important. Treasures are also nothing. Getting out is the most important thing. Otherwise, we can only wait for death here. Senior, could it be that you have a way to get out of here? I accidentally fell into a similar space before, and I accidentally got out once. I can't guarantee that I can leave here. I can see that each of you has a good cultivation level. If you're willing to follow me, I can take you to find a way out. The 4 of them felt dizzy. They didn't expect Su Fong to ask them to submit as soon as he opened his mouth. With the ghost-face Rakshasa, Su Fong's strength was unfathomable. He also had 2 powerful demonic soldiers, so he was a supreme powerhouse. He smiled coldly and said, There aren't many opportunities. Meeting me is your only chance to get out of the abyss. Moreover, if you follow me, I can help you recover your strength, body, and vital chi to normal in a short time. You don't have to be like this, neither human nor ghost. Senior, you have such a magical power. The 4 of them were moved in an instant. They couldn't help but take a few steps forward and directly kneel down in front of Su Fong. If you have the magical power to restore us to normal and take us out, the 4 of us swear to follow you forever. Why? Do the 4 of you have to submit to me after we get out? That won't do. You only have this one chance. I can promise you that if you submit to me now, I can help you recover most of your vitality. I won't give benefits to outsiders for free. Moreover, you only have this one chance. Rather than wait in vain, you might as well take this chance. Fine. The strongest cultivator with the wheel was the first to agree. The other 3 hesitated for a moment. After exchanging glances, they finally nodded. I'll give each of you a medicinal pill. This is a yin-yang immortal sky pill that I refine myself. This one will give you a shocking amount of vitality. Whoosh! With a wave of his hand, 4 low-grade yin-yang immortal sky pills flew toward the 4 experts. The four of them hastily grabbed them and swallowed them without even thinking about it. With just one action and one glance, Su Fong knew that these people had no choice. If they continued to wait like this, they would only end up dead. They might as well take a gamble. You've matured. Law praised it this time. Hee hee. Su Fong laughed happily. Who knew that there would be so many experts in the abyss? Their lives are worse than death, and I just happen to have an ability that they don't have. I might as well take these experts for my own use and strengthen myself. You've really matured quite a bit. After encountering so many things, I have to grow. Withdrawing his aura, Su Fong appeared in front of the four in a flash. The four of them were burning with the flames of life pills, causing the dust on their bodies to dissipate. Their faces were filled with vitality, and they looked rosy and rosy. I have to take this rare opportunity to gather experts for my own use. Once these experts recover, they will all have the strength of Demonic Mountain's experts. The more I gather, the easier it will be for me to encounter diseases in this wasteland. I won't have to hide like a mouse like before. He immediately looked at the four people and asked, "How about it?" The four of them kept kneeling and nodded greedily. Not bad, not bad. A low-grade medicinal pill actually helped us recover a lot of vitality. I feel a lot more vitality. You're willing to be my subordinates? Su Fong asked with certainty. We're willing to follow Senior Ghost's face. We'll go through fire and water without hesitation. They quickly expressed their loyalty. Su Fong coldly formed a madra, using the special poisonous gas of ghosts as the source. The latter was the power of yin and yang of the world as the primer. They turned into four seals. As the four people released the seals and waited, the seals were sent into their yang immortals' divine apertures, or the Jindan world in their bodies. Now, you're my subordinates. Of course, I won't forget your benefits. Su Fong took out 40 yin-yang immortal sky pills and gave 10 to each of them. He took out some gems and embedded them in the surroundings. Then, he cast an ordinary sensing formation. Afterward, he came to a spacious place and sat down. The four of them obediently came to him and were extremely excited. Su Fong's domineering aura spontaneously rose. This couldn't be faked. He was the overlord of 5 small worlds. Although this yin-yang immortal sky pill is only a low-grade pill, its medicinal power is surprisingly beneficial to the physical body. Moreover, I have other high-grade and even supreme-grade medicinal pills that you want. Haha, I don't have much, but I have a lot of resources and methods. Master, we're willing to follow you for the rest of our lives. The four of them swallowed the yin-yang immortal sky pill while expressing their loyalty. Looking at how they were wolfing down the pills, they were truly the reincarnation of hungry ghosts. Good. Brats, I have plenty of things. Eat slowly. Once you've recovered, follow me to chase after those 2 demonic cultivators that escaped. Also, tell me about this abyss. I need to understand this place before I can think of a way to get out. Master, the 4 of us have been trapped in this abyss for 10,000 years at the longest and several thousand years at the shortest. Almost all of us were heavily injured when we were trapped here. In the end, we didn't know how to conserve resources and swallowed medicinal pills. Later, we fought with other cultivators who were trapped here and fought for resources. We constantly consumed our resources, and eventually, our resources became less and less. We slowly waited for death. Are there other cultivators who were trapped here like you? Yes, there are. There's still quite a few of them. There were several dozen of them before, but they were either killed or lost their lives. I estimate that in the past 10,000 years, over 1,000 cultivators have fallen into this abyss. In the end, only a few dozen of them managed to survive until now. The strongest expert replied, "What's your name?" Su Fong thought highly of this person's strength. He estimated that this person's strength was about the same as Nangong Tu's. He was as strong as that middle-aged demonic cultivator from Heavenly Devil Mountain. This subordinate is Mao Chong. I've been trapped here for over 10,000 years. Most of the other cultivators who fell here at the same time have died. After this person replied, he looked miserable. Mao Chong, one expert. His strength was about the same as Tung Ba's, and perhaps even a bit stronger. Mao Chang, you have the qualifications to be my right-hand man. The three of you should work hard for me. Everyone must strive to leave this place alive. I'll give you some time to properly digest the yin-yang immortal sky pill. Don't worry about the medicinal pills. Once you've recovered, we'll go deal with those two demonic cultivators. Yes, master. Mao Chang led the four of them around. He felt like he was welcoming a second spring in his life.